right. Shabbat Shalom, fam. Shabbat Shalom. Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. Peace and blessings to you, fam. Peace and blessings. We're going to get started in just a minute per usual. We're going to let this play a couple, one, two, three times. No, two times max. Then we're going to get into it. I'm going to type in where we're going to start from as I kind of marinate on it some more. You already know how the flow goes by now. But peace and blessings to you. Prayerfully your day's been well so far. We're going to get started in just a minute. All right. Shalom, fam. Shalom. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. We didn't let that play twice. Now we're about to get into it. Welcome back to the Fireside Campfire Study, where we dive into the study of creation, creative digestion of what's going on around us. Just in a view of testimony off of how I'm able to do it in my life, and let that go forth and see if it resonates with you. But also some study places, some study tips and stuff like that on how your filter is looking. Right, I'm on, and we're going to start out with prayer, and then we're going to jump right on in with what we got today, with what Abba has come forth with today. Right, go ahead and pray, get zoned in with Abba, and then we're going to start. I'm on. Abba, we coming for you to say thank you for another beautiful, beautiful day, for protection, for leading us here to this point, for being able to see your work behind the scenes, not getting caught up in what's going on so much in social media, but to see what's really going on in the nature and the world of things, and how that resonates with us, and how we could see you deeper in it, and how it speaks messages when we can't find them in the places where we normally look, right? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart with you be acceptable and able to be received properly for those who are able to receive this and to use it going forward. Asham Yahava, Asham Yahaspa, Asham Vakakodash, Aman, Aman, and Aman. All right, so as many of y'all know, we've been going through a series on the 12 patriarchs in the you can find that in the Apocrypha. We're going to read that as well, but we've made it to Benjamin. We've made it to Benjamin. We made it to the last stated of the children of Jacob. There are more, of course. There's Dinah or Dinah. There's others that were adopted in later like that as well. but we're on Benjamin. We're going to go into the Hebrew character some. We're going to go into what that means and stuff like that. But first, we're going to dive in like right here. So I was marinating on this today to keep going and to kind of see exactly where we're going in at. Because honestly, when it comes to stuff like this, there's so many places that we could really step into to start. But why not start with how it related to me? So this rising, I was getting up and I was led to change the filter in the AC unit, right? And that's where I got this. How's your filter looking? Because in life, what it helps me to do this. It helps me to classify something as malice. Um, Malice being some type of flow of anger, right? We pretty much know what malice means, but let's look that up for definition purposes, right? We're gonna look up malice real quick. So malice refers to the desire to intentionally cause pain, injury, or distress to another person. It involves conscious ill will, spite, or a cruel satisfaction in seeing others suffer. The term can apply to a general harmful behavior or carry specific, distinct definitions across different fields, right? So malice is something that we have to first classify because there's righteousness and then there's malice, right? I was reading the Testament of Benjamin, and it came to the point where he said, a righteous man does not have a dark eye, right? And I marinated on that. A righteous man is going to be able, or a righteous woman is going to be able to see what it is going around for what it is. It's either righteousness or wickedness. We talked about that before, right? And you're going to have to know the barriers of this. You're going to have to know the ins and outs. You're going to have to know the extremities because it's going to help you a lot in your walk to know something that's malice and classify it as malice because there's no time for malice. Malice messes you up. It causes you to have a dark eye, to see something again as vain as we keep talking about, or to be caught up in a thing because we're supposed to look at it, see it for what it is, classify it, put it in the moving truck like we talked about before, and leave it there. So when we look at that box again and see it labeled as such, we already know what's inside of that, right? So that's the filter. In the AC unit, the filter sits, and when the AC is pulling in, the filter gets stuck to it, like in a properly planted place. You know, we just talked about Joseph. Benjamin and Joseph, they were very, very close. We got to put this into perspective. Joseph being the properly planted place in Yasab, right? And Benjamin or Banyamin, right? Or Banyamin means the basically the power of the right hand, how you're supposed to be sitting, right? Where you're supposed to be sitting. And Benjamin was always close to Joseph when they were coming up. So in birthing, remember Benjamin, after he was born, Rachel moved on from here, right? She took her last breaths after childbirth. This made Joseph and Benjamin very close. Joseph and Benjamin were born, of the same mother, but at a very young age, Benjamin only knew but so much. Remember when he was about teenage years is when Joseph was sent off to Kemet, right? He was sold by his brothers to Kemet. So imagine how detrimental that was to Benjamin. Imagine the separation of it. But then keep going in later down the line of that same story. Joseph said that Benjamin had to stay there, right? That was the way. That's the way it was written. So Benjamin had to be really close to the properly planted place. This is the way. So Benjamin also being the tribe or the branch or the mindset that breeds a lot of warriors. We think about Saul, we think about Paul, we think about Esther. We think about these people. They come from Benjamin. It's a warrior mindset, and essentially what goes on in this whole life is again seeing something that's malice and classifying it as malice. A couple of other examples we could think about where I'm trying to go with this or led to go with this. Think about Moses and Joshua. So Moses led, Moses went through a lot, right? So we're going to go kind of zoom past a little bit of his life, not not to be rude, but Moses, he got to the point, remember, where he was questioning Abba because of the people. He got caught up in the malice of things and ended up not being able to see the promised land, right? So we're going to take that into a metaphorical mindset. So he was able to walk through the path, able to go through a we'll call that circumcision. Because remember in Kemet when the Ravak, the Holy Spirit, he said you got to put the blood over the doorpost, right? That goes into deeper interpretations, right? You got to put the blood over the doorpost, and that was a sense of a circumcision. Those that were really ready to leave out of Kemet left, but these people that left Kemet again, they were people of mixed beliefs, not mixed beliefs in Abba, but mixed standings, right? Some more into malice, some not. But carrying this can affect people along the way that are righteous, right? Because you got to be able to classify it malice, right? That's going to help you a lot because it's not going to leave you stuck looking at things in the wrong way like Moses did. His who was after him was Joshua, right? Joshua is the one that saw Moses and was able to actually let's go to Joshua chapter 1 verse 8 too while I'm talking about this. He was one that was able to see the one problem with Moses, and that was he was not able to see and classify malice. That's where he failed at. Remember, Joshua was the one that led the people over to the second circumcision. He's the one that led them over the Jordan, right? He's the one that led them right after that into right into Jericho, basically, um, down the line too. So we're gonna put all that into a metaphorical mindset, right? We're going into metaphorical mind, and we're gonna break that down. So again, Joshua looking at this point in this person and sees, okay, he failed at malice, classifying it malice. One thing I had to make sure is not to be consumed by what's going on, so that way I'm able to properly lead and properly stand and properly carry out my life, right? He got to the point where, let's go to Joshua 1:8. Matter of fact, yeah, that's what I said too. Let's go to Joshua 1:8. As you let Spirit go ahead and move, okay? Joshua 1:8, many of y'all know it says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, which is we'll go into that in a second. Shall meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have righteous success. Right? So you're meditating on what is malice and what is not. What is the intent? What is the actual malice? It's a defamation. It's a taking something out of frame. It's getting caught up in something around you, right? Many times we could think about many things in life. I'm not gonna go too personal into my life, but I did tell a story on a previous live, right? And on that live, I was talking about how I was going to get this trailer, and I parked in front of the trailer. I pulled kind of like parallel to it, and I see the yard jockey truck in the corner. He's doing this thing, whatever, over there, right? But this pretty much at a catty corner angle. So the trailers are sitting vertical. He's at a parallel line going through rows of trailers. Okay, so I'm coming in. I'm doing my pre-trip inspection on the trailer. I walk around. I walk past him once. He says no words. I keep going. I walk past him again. He says no words. Keep going. He sees I'm looking at this empty trailer the whole time. So I get in the truck, I start the truck, I start to back in. Something says, look over my right shoulder. I look, I see him right there, blocking me off, right? His intent was to not use words. We're going to stop right there. He's not going to use words. What do I mean by that? He's not going to use culture. He's not going to think properly. He's going to look at things and get caught up in the motion and try to push that onto somebody else, right? He's not going to use words, but he's going to use actions. That's backwards. First thing we got to do is to properly learn yourself so that way you're able to plug and play everything else. That's the first major thing, and what you need to learn about and see really and study more in. This is what I do on self, is to be able to see, all right, where are my flaws and where do I need to plug and play so that way I'm able to go forward properly. This is one of my things. I check my filter daily, right? So you keep the book of the law, you keep the book of characterization, you keep the book of process, you keep the book of forward progression, right? Thou shalt meditate therein day and night. You shall meditate in the lessons you get from the day so you can rest on them in the night. And as you begin to start your day with rest, you can meditate on what you received the previous day, right? Let's keep going. that thou mayest observe to do according. So that means you're able to see what's going on according to each situation, able to filter out the malice, like eat the meat, spit out the bones, be able to filter out the malice, so that way you're able to keep going, right? For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous. Then you're able to go to the next proper step in line instead of making side steps, instead of getting caught up in the thing. At my work, I was, well, at my toil, at my where I work at for my job, right? So at that point, I could have lost my cool because I don't like that fleshly, like the flesh in me doesn't like that. What I saw flesh wise was that somebody blocked me off and told me I dare you to do it, and that's something that I struggle with. But I had to see that, okay, this person is not in culture. That's one L. Two, apparently didn't know how to use his words. Didn't want to use the words. Maybe there was some type of and what is it, timidness? Who knows, right? But I was able to filter out the malice. So again, what we do here, we come here, we study things that we already know, but we go deeper into the creative process of things, right? Let's keep going. And therein, and thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have righteous success. You should have righteous success, right? We don't got to go too deep into that. But here, what we're going to talk about today is, how's your filter looking? How's your filter looking? When I was still studying on this, it led me to not just Moses and Joshua, looking at their interaction. With the reason why Joshua was prosperous, because he knew he had to study malice. He knew he had to classify this thing, so that way he's not, quote unquote, asking about it, right? You get what I'm saying? Or quote unquote, um, why me? You know what I'm saying? He's able to see it's supposed to be him, because we had to go through certain things in life in order to progress in life properly. We are given specific things through Al Qayyam. This is the righteous direction spoken into the blood, water, and spirit by our name, right? Each person has their name that they're given at birth. This is the same name that was divinely timed for you. So you can look up these meanings of these names and figure out what's going on, right? For your life. You know, you can really break it down. A lot of people go to getting other Hebrew names out the Bible, but that wasn't the one given to you. When I talk about we got to learn these Hebrew characters, it's not to say, all right, I'm gonna be very careful with this. It's not to say that if you don't learn the characters, you're no good. It's not to say that, but it's to say that um, these characters and breaking down each one in Psalms 119, you're able to see what's going on in your life step by step. That's what I'm saying. So if you don't want to see it step by step, that's something I'm not gonna get into, right? But the characters help you see something step by step. So it's very important if you really want to get like fine tune and really deep dive into, because some people take the top skim of the salvation. That's fine, right? That's not nothing I'm here to argue with. I'm just here to show other avenues of where you can dive into to work on yourself daily, because this is what I do. Essentially, when we come on here and you see other speakers or stuff like that, they're coming with a personal life testimony, because they're giving us sackcloth and they want to give out what was given to them in a proper way, because this edifies the people, right? Let's keep on going. So we're gonna go to First Corinthians now, right? We're gonna kind of walk through how I was led to walk through this, and we're just gonna see how it goes, right? Let's keep going. Shalom, sis, what's going on? So we're gonna go to First Corinthians chapter 14. I think I typed up there. Yeah, First Corinthians 14. Now this part got a little interesting. This part got interesting. Still talking about malice. We're going down the line. Um, Still talking about malice. And here, this is referring to the church at Corinth, or the assembly of people at Corinth, right? Um, this was another letter from Paul written to these people. Paul was as we know, he was in prisons, lockups. He was on the missionary. He's getting caught up in a lot of things, but he was still able to write letters, write letters back, and kind of keep people on track, right? Let's see. And here he was talking about malice. They had a lot of problems. They had a lot of problems with a lot of customs and how they were trying to keep the faith, right? But they were going too deep into things. One of the things was they were talking about long hair, and that's one thing argued a lot. But it's what are you saying? It's not our custom. It's not our custom to cut the hair at that. Not to say anybody's wrong for cutting the hair and stuff like that, but he was getting really to the order of things, but really hitting the ground of it, right? Hitting the ground running. So we're gonna read 1 Corinthians chapter 14. We're gonna start at verse. We're gonna start at the beginning. We'll probably read to verse. Let's see. We're gonna go until we're led to stop. At least to verse 12. For at least to verse 12. And again, talk about malice. Now, here in this chapter, it talks about speaking in tongues. This is where it got interesting. Because speaking in tongues is a thing that people. Oh, actually, I was talking to my father about this yesterday, I believe. That is funny because it came up today in my study, and I was just going in and reiterating stuff and putting it back in my mind, and this came up. So we're gonna do it like this. We're just gonna read. We're gonna read and we're gonna walk through how it came about. All right. So 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 1, it says, "Follow after charity and desire spiritual. Follow after charity and desire spiritual, so you may prophesy." Right? We think about charity, we think about love, we think about guidance, we think about something given without so much asked for. Because in the beginning we were given love, and we didn't even know that was love that we had to ask for, right? Again, love, not malice. These things are intertwined, but you got to be able to classify it so you're able to not only you're able to use it though too at the same time, in order to hold ground, or in order to hold peace, in order to hold things together. Let's see, and it says, "Follow after charity and desire spiritual, but rather that ye may prophesy." Right? For he that speaketh in an unknown tongue speaketh not unto men, but unto Alachayam. Again, Alachayam being the righteous direction of the Father spoken for the blood, water, and spirit, right? Now, the tongue that we hear are the experiences that we go through life, right? The tongues that we hear are the experiences that we go through in life. These things speak not unto man, but they speak towards, or they speak because of the righteous direction, right? For no man alone understandeth. Howbeit in the spirit he speaketh mysteries. In the spirit he's able to break these things down. In the spirit he knows how to swim through these things, right? Let's keep on going. Verse 3, "But he that prophesieth speaketh unto men edification." Prophesying is taking that which you have heard, that which you have learned, right? And turning it into a prophetical thing, right? Because once you go into spirit, you're in there with understanding the past, present, and future of a thing, the past, present, and future of a situation. Oftentimes we get caught up in staying in the past, or staying in the present, or staying in the future. And that's where we get knocked off balance, because we're holding on to one thing. Yes, exactly. Charity equals service. This is the service it's talking about. Speaking in tongues is a service. Oftentimes people get caught up in what it sounds like and stuff like that, but breaking it all the way down to origin, again, why it's important to learn characters. Speaking in tongues is speaking Hebrew character. This is the language that was given in the beginning to talk about anything. If you think about tongues, you've heard of a da, la, ga, ba, ha, all that. These are Hebrew characters. So when they're speaking in tongues, right, they're speaking in the spiritual sense that if somebody doesn't know this, it's going to come up as speaking in tongues. It's going to come up as something crazy that they're not going to be able to comprehend. But if you're able to hear these things, you'll be able to tell if somebody is really speaking tongues or not, if you know Hebrew characters. So with a grain of salt, because this is per interpretation in spirit, right? But generally, if you're able to get to knowing these things, you're going to know some Hebrew. It's naturally in you, right? Or you've studied some, you know a Hebraic name, you know this, you know that, because it has to be that barrier. You have to go back into the language which was spoken into existence. You get what I'm saying? So not getting too deep into tongues. Maybe we're led to go into that later on, but this is for a malice purpose, right? We're going to keep going. Here, and do must move with the vision, because more visions to come. Exactly. Because if you hear and don't do, it's all messed up, right? Because if you hear what's going on, but you don't break it down for others to hear or for others to get, you're not really doing the work. But if you just do the work without hearing it properly, you're throwing somebody off, right? It's like that Zion, that boat, you know what I'm saying? Right on them waters. You gotta, them waters that we swimming through right now, right? Let's keep going. Verse 3. But he that prophesieth speaketh unto men. He's able to break it down into men, what he's doing, what he's vibing with, what he's able to hear, right? And he's able to give this out via different, what you call it, different physical beings in the scroll, via their names spoken into existence. So Abba spoke Davad through Alachayim for Yahweh in the righteous direction, right? He spoke Davad, he spoke Samuel, he spoke Solomon. I'm just going to use the modern terms so we're able to stay together, you know, from speaking in a spiritual sense to speaking to man. You see like that? So just like we go through, you know, all the disciples, the 12 patriarchs, you know, all through, he spoke these. That's what I'm saying. If you look up your name specifically, you're able to see exactly what's going on with you in life, why you're going through so much. Like, and you'll actually be able to think about what you're going through in life, so you're able to see the right characters. What do I mean by that? So my name's Stephen, right? That many would say it's a Greek name, da da da, but all again origin, everything comes from the Hebraic characters, right? But in the beginning, it's a S. Some could say it's a SA for Samache, or you could say it's Shayan or Sheen, right? Samek or Sheen. These are the terms you'll see in Psalms 119. But in my life, what I've seen is that through destruction, um, towards a mark is what I've been going through in life. But also a seed planted in thorny ground. But it's really been the destruction I've been through since I've been properly planted. You know what I'm saying? So I'm able to see what's going through in my life, right? Towards the maturity and affection being the divine or none at the end of it. So I'm going through a lot. So basically, I'm going through breaking down, uh, like we just studied in tongues, what I'm learning in life and able to come on here and break it down like this, because the way I'm hearing it and the way I'm seeing it, it doesn't click. It don't click like this. I promise you, it doesn't. I'll be sitting there and I'll see different things. So if I say, all right, like in my last life, I was like, yo, I saw cattle chewing the cud. I knew that means that represented me chewing on what Abba had me chewing on. I saw sheep going in a straight line to feed. That because sheep, they hold the line. They hold the line. Whether it's a circle, whether it's a wavy line, even when dogs are herding sheep, sheep hold a line. Outside of them, it's a perfect line, some way, somehow, right? But if I just said cow, sheep, food, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about. Just like in the dream, oh man, when he was about to prophesy, I believe Paul, right? He saw all these foods, right? All these unclean foods, and that means he was supposed to be able to sit with people that are from different places, right? In order to be able to hear what Abba really has, because we studied to show ourselves approved. Matter of fact, let's go to Acts chapter 2 real quick. Let's go to Acts chapter 2 so we can really break down what's going on here, right? And then we're gonna go back to 1 Corinthians 14. So put your marker right there, 1 Corinthians 14. Let's go back to Acts chapter 2. We're going to Acts chapter 2, and we're just going to read a couple of verses to show what I'm talking about, right? Acts chapter 2. It says, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place, right? Pentecost is like when the Holy Spirit came about, right? For those that don't know, in order for the Holy Spirit to dwell amongst us, let's make this like short, sweet, to the point. Definitely dive in. In order for the Spirit to dwell among us, Yahashua HaMashiach, the Messiah, those use Jesus Christ, he had to leave in order for Spirit to dwell amongst us, right? So in this day, for in a sense, for a man flesh to leave, so Spirit may dwell, right? We know, not degrading nothing the Messiah did, but the Messiah did have to carry sin of everybody. You know what I'm saying? He did have to become that in order to carry it away, in order to be a sacrifice for it. It all had to be put on him, right? But let's go back to chapter 2, verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place, right? Salah. They were all on one accord in one place. All the minds settled in one place, all the things going on post the what they did to our Messiah, for it was written, all this in one mindset, understanding what's going on now, but still waiting for the next step because of Ruach, right? Or Ravak, right? And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly, verse 2, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven, or Shamayam, as of a rush of a mighty wind. We know that the wind represents the Ravak HaKodesh, right? The Holy Spirit. The wind is what Adam walked with in the cool of the day. The wind is what heated up the gases in the beginning of the start and cooled down the gases in order to be water, right? The wind has water, gas in it as well. The wind makes brings about land, right? The wind gives you a foundation to stand on because the water supported. This is the wind. This is what Abba uses in order for works to be done. He uses Ravak. He uses Hakodash. He uses Yahava. He uses um, Yahashua. He uses Hamashacheh. He uses these things to make things work, right? So let's go back to verse 2. And suddenly there came a sound from Shamayam as of a rushing mighty wind. When you're hearing things sometimes, even the wind going about, the wind is what makes things move. The wind, like metaphorical mindset, the wind is what makes things move. The wind is what carries the waters, pushes the waters. The wind uses the moon as an axis, type of thing. This is a flow, right? Let's keep going. Verse 3, and there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, or the Ravak HaKodesh, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Speak with other tongues. What does that mean? So we got to use some deductive reasoning. So if they speak with other tongues, that means they're speaking outside of the one tongue that they already know. This is the tongue of the Hebrew character. This is the tongue that Yahashua knew, our Messiah knew and spoke. This is the same ones that they all spoke. This is their culture, right? Again, like that's just some more foundation as to why you should, because the goal is to walk as the Messiah walked, to know the mindset of the garden, to be able to sit in a place where you're very intensely in tune with everything. I love to go to the mountains when I'm driving because it's the same. I think about Moses going to the mountain. I think about Abraham going to the mountain. I think about Joshua, like sorry, Jacob. I think about these people, right? Um, yeah, and on that note, right, going back to the point, they were all filled, so they were able to be at the point where they were able to hear things outside of theirs, right? So they're able to take something and see it in a Hebraic way through characters. Shabbat Shalom, Miss Parker, Miss Pop, my Spache. How's it going? Like they're able to hear everything and able to decipher it, right? But being able to speak others' languages, right? Because oftentimes we see speaking somebody else's language as malice, and that's not exactly what malice is. To be able to hold on to something but still speak through it, right? Don't get caught up in their tongue, right? In the way they speak, because you're getting caught up in that spirit. Essentially, every time we speak or we step into a situation, we're stepping into rushing waters. Like imagine you see a rushing river going downstream, and you just put one foot in there without foundation. You're gonna get taken out. You're going to call their malice your reality. You're going to call their misguidance the realness, and you're just going to say whatever, forget it. But knowing that you're stepping into rushing waters, knowing what you're stepping into every time, because rushing wind brings rushing waters, right? Knowing what you're stepping into is going to help you a lot going forward because you're able to classify something as malice. We're going to get back to 1 Corinthians 14 in a second, but we're led here, right? So verse 5, it says, and they were dwelling at Jerusalem, or Jerusalem, Jews, or Yahavadan, or, yeah, Jews. Judah, right? Those of Judah, Jews. Yeah, we're going to stop there. And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men out of every nation under Shamayim. So out of every nation. So we're going through the nations of Israel, or the sons of Jacob, right? Or Jacob name later turned Israel. He has sons. So for those sons, for each one, remember we read in mm, what did we read last week? Gad, words of Gad the seer, chapter 1. Towards the end, it talks about the 3 and the 12 for the heart. So I think it's the 3. Matter of fact, let me just go ahead and look at it. It's already flipped open because we're gonna go there at the end. um, let's see. Yeah, 3 vine branches and 12 palms. The 12 palms, 3 vine branches and 12 palms in his hand, and that was for the heart, right? Um, yeah. So we'll read Words of God this year, chapter 1, for those that want to go here later on, in verse 17. And he took the lamb from the hand of the son and put the crown on his head, and the vine branches and the palms on his heart. The heart is where the emotions are. The heart is the emotions can either rule you, or the emotions can lead you. The emotions can rule you, or emotions can lead you. Either way, it's a leadership role, but one of those ways is not the proper leader. One of those ways is not properly you, and we know this. The reason why we mad and the soul is mad in a situation is because we're in it and we're not supposed to be in it. Like the soul knows righteous intent. You know, we were taught things because it's the things that we have heard and the things that we have heard spoken, the things that we have spoken and the things we have put into somebody else's ear that causes the eye to become dark because the mind and the eye coincide. You get what I'm saying? So in the heart of people, they receive things, they receive water, and that water sets in. Sometimes it's too much water, it may bloat them. Sometimes it's sitting in the wrong pocket, it might cause them to cramp or twitch to the side a little bit. Sometimes it might rush through and make things pour out too soon. You know, the water can do a lot of things to people, but don't get caught up looking in it at them or stepping in their rushing waters and call it their fault. They have no control over the waters, they're just trying to swim. You know what I'm saying? um that part. All right, let's keep reading. Every nation under Shamayam. So every thought process under the heavenly way. Shamayam. Shamayam. Look up those characters. So through every bit of purpose meant for destruction, right? For the to be used by the blood, water, and spirit via the hand of Abba, which is Yah or Yavad, right? Or oh man, Yavad and Yaud, right? This is what these people were set in under that mindset, right? Because it said in verse 5, they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, devout to properly being able to classify, properly using the filter, because they had to filter things in order to receive the Ravak HaKodash, right? You have to filter things in order to receive the Ravak HaKodash. If you don't filter things, you're not receiving the proper form of wisdom. Because wisdom, there's wisdom of wickedness, there's wisdom of righteousness, right? So you have knowledge of good, you have knowledge of evil. The issue again in the beginning was Adam and Eve were not that we weren't supposed to know it, we just weren't supposed to know it yet. That's it. But now that we're in it, now we kind of see why we weren't even ready for it yet, because the flesh, mind, receptors, and everything like that, even the receptors on the bottom of your feet. I heard Pastor Kofi talk about this. It was a great example of talking about how there's so many nerves, like sensors on the bottom of your feet. It's better for you to walk than to run for your body, because the way that it impacts is shocking, because you have an arc in your foot. Something's not completely touching. So when you're trying to run, it's going to do more damage essentially in the long run if you're running too much, right? Some get runner's knee, right? Don't really get walker's knee. You know what I'm saying? Um, let's go to verse 6 of Acts chapter 2 so we keep on going. It says, now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. Verse 7, and they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue? How are we able to look at that person and really see what they're going through just by what they're talking about? Before, I talked about how when you encounter somebody, you want to let them write the story for you. You want to hear about their day. Their day holds the lesson that they marinated on or received from the previous time. That's what I mean. You want to hear about their day, because if you don't hear about their day, you can't rest with them in what they're supposed to rest in, right? But oftentimes we come in with our day and what we've learned, and we come in front of somebody and we tell them this. We have to be careful with that, because we have to let them speak their own tongue. We have the righteous knowledge, but we have to let them speak, right? This is another way you could view this passage. All right. Um, Yeah, verse 8. And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born, wherein we were figuring out what was going on, right? So at this place where we met the Ravak HaKodash, in this place where we met the Holy Spirit, how are we able to hear these people if they haven't met the Holy Spirit yet? How are we able to understand where they're coming from? Because the issues with the scribes and Pharisees is because it got to a point where they were so mundane in religious ways that they forgot the point of this whole thing. The point of this whole thing, that was the issue, right? They didn't want to hear anybody else because if you didn't speak Hebrew, you couldn't go to the temple. You know, if you didn't follow or if you didn't wear the right things, you couldn't even step in and get close to anything talking about the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? That was the problem with the scribes and Pharisees. That's why the Messiah, Yahashua HaMashiach, came in and said, "Whoa, wait a minute, what are y'all doing?" He came in challenging them off the rip because why? He was able to talk about things in nature. He was talking about the fig tree. He was talking about waters. He was talking about wells. He won't and still doing laps around them boys in this temple. You know, they're like, how are you even doing this? Because in order to know what somebody's going through, you have to know the one thing that everybody sees in common: nature lessons, lessons in nature. Literally, literally. If you walk around during the day, you look outside and you start thinking about why something moves this way. Earlier this morning or earlier this rise, and I was looking at a squirrel going across the vehicle, right? And I was just staring out. I'm like, huh, that tail is straight when he's trying to find something, when he's moving fast in a direction, sort of like how a cheetah's tail does, any other animal tail does, right? Yeah, life actually teaches. Like, this is what happens. Like, he spoke life into existence. He spoke an action to go against another action to create a reaction. This is life. This is lessons. This is teaching. This is eating. This is digesting. This is thinking. This is walking. This is talking, right? It's all there because the nature does this. They taught the trees, the animals talk to each other, right? They have their own spats and fights. Like it's but it's so original because um this is what we're supposed to look at to learn. He told Adam he was over the garden mindset where he was supposed to name the animals and name all this other stuff like that. Brother Dorsey went into this joint real nice, real nice. He walked to that joint nice, but he was over all these things because he was able to see the nature of it. He said to see the nature of this animal, you should know this animal's purpose is. You should know the name of this animal. You should know the intent, right? Um, People argue over names because they don't know original intent. They don't know Father. They don't know Abba. They say, well, it's got to be this, this, this. These are the actions she uses. He is Father. Father plants seeds. Rabakakodas bursts. She is mother. She is referred to as she. Actually, after this, I'm going to go into Second Kings over to Job. Yashaba is what what it breaks down to in Hebrew, but Joseph. Oh, I almost had it. But we're going to that into study on her next, right? Let's see. Timothy said we will lack ooh, bars. We will lack natural affections for one another. Animals were the first vision given to Adam to see. There we go. Boom, bam. That Timothy, that's facts though. So we would, yeah, we would lack natural affections for one another. Like to forget that we are one another. To forget that we're not so much different. But one person hates one thing about the other, and it goes into a different place because you haven't classified it as malice. You haven't seen that, okay, I'm gonna take this, take that away so I'm able to see what this person is, where they really are. I'm able to hear in my own. You see what I'm saying? We neglect the natural things all the time. All the time. I talk to people a lot about what's going on now in times, and I'm like, hey, the best thing you could do is grow your own food and be on your own as much as possible. You know, if you're following the word, if you're trusting, you would see, you know, you would study and actually see what you're supposed to do because it was written years ago about what you're supposed to do, right? It told you how to farm, told you about how the four corners of your farm you're supposed to give to those that don't have. That's natural love. That's natural affection. Try the spirit of, yeah, that's our true nature. That's what it's supposed to do. And shalom, shalom, elder, shalom. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to do, right? And a lot of times we get caught up in not doing that. We don't look at the Holy Spirit at those times. When somebody's coming up against us and stuff like that, we're not looking at the Holy Spirit, even though what they've been dipped in is wisdom. What we see is knowledge and understanding. We see the intimacy and the standard that they're under from the wisdom that they were dipped in. Not always going to be the righteous thing. It's going to be malice. But we're supposed to see the righteous thing because in Acts chapter 2, that's what was given to us, right? That's why we're kind of talking about tongues in First Corinthians. Not going into it too deep, but to know, understanding character helps you understand life, and if you understand life, you're able to understand people, right? It's great. It's great, right? Um, yeah. And after that, it goes into more. So we're gonna go back to First Corinthians chapter 14. All right, First Corinthians chapter 14. Let's flip back over there real quick. Keep on talking about malice. All right. Let's see. I said what verse we're in too. Yep, verse 3. All right. Let's go to First Corinthians chapter 14, verse 3. It says, like we were just talking about, but he that prophesieth speaketh unto men edification, speaketh unto men Hebrew character, speaking unto men, because what edified life, what was used to chisel away and form everything, Hebrew character. Again, when people are speaking in tongues, they're speaking Hebrew character. They're not. It's not lined up in a characterized form that we're able to recognize, but we are able to recognize the specific sounds in that tongue. I'm just gonna leave that there, marinate on it, plug and play, like I say, plug and play. Not saying that I'm able to decipher, but to see somebody in a motion, right, in a flow of rushing water, and to hear the context clues of what they're talking about, and to hear them say something that's not a characterized phrase, but it is a ah ga ba da la, or it's something reversed, right? Like la ah to ba and al, right? There's a different change. There's a backwards form of it and there's a forwards form of it. But they're talking about what they're going through in their mind in a Hebraic place, right? Because those people that are speaking like that, guarantee, have heard some type of Hebrew, because we all have, right? Or they know a Hebraic name. If they're really teaching and speaking, believe it or not, they know Hebrew. They know Psalms 119. They know when you see Lord God, what it means. They know these things, right? Do they always teach these things? No. Well, we see what happens there. We're not here to do all that though. But they're able to prophesy speaking unto men edification, right? And exhortation and comfort. This is what we do because we're able to take away malice, right? We're able to see the things that we weren't supposed to see just yet, right? But we're able to take that away. How's your filter looking again, right? Where are you stuck to the proper place, like Benjamin, where we're going around today, right? Verse 4. He that speaketh, and then it says in italicized words, unknown tongue edifieth himself. So him that speaketh in a way that that person is not going to understand and just say, oh, I'm better than you. What happens? That means they edify themselves. But he that prophesieth edifieth the assembly, or it says church, but church means assembly or a grouping place, or where the common believers are, right? So he that speaketh in an unknown tongue, this could go either way, unknown tongue of malice to somebody that only knows malice, or an unknown tongue of edification to one that unknown tongue of edification to a person that is in malice, that's not going to be able to hear you, right? You're just talking to yourself essentially. When you're talking to yourself, it's frustrating because self to self, that's worked out by things in life. We don't really work on ourselves, we work life, right? So that frustration is going against, it's the same thing. Like it repels, like polar opposites of or the same ones on a magnet, right? To build up morally, righteously. Exactly, right? Verse 5, it says, I would that ye all spake with tongues, but rather that ye prophesied. For greater he that prophesieth than he that speaketh with tongues. Right? So greater is he that studies to figure out and to see how really to work this thing than one that just looks at it, reads it, and just keeps it to themselves, or looks at it and just says, oh, I know how to say shalom, and I'm going to leave it at that. Or that person don't know what I'm saying. They just ain't studied, so I'm just going to leave them where they are. If you study, you'll find out what I'm saying. That's malice. That's what the scribes and Pharisees were doing. If you would do this, this, but they never left that temple. They never went to the people, right? They never stepped into the waters. They were just collecting. They weren't doing no work, right? This is what we're talking about here. So verse 6, no, he that speaketh with tongues, except he interpret, that the assembly may receive edifying. So we already know what that means based off how we've been walking through already, right? Verse 5, let's read that again. I would that ye all spake with tongues, but And say, I would rather you all speak with tongues, but rather that ye prophesy. Like, all right, I'd much rather everybody just already know, but you know, we're they are always supposed to be teachers because something teaches something. What was spoken out of the mouth of Abba was something that was supposed to teach something else. In the beginning created the righteous direction for the blood, water, and spirit to be able to know heavenly things and be able to bring it to earth. Right? So let's keep going. Uh, verse 6. Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you? Except I shall speak to you either by revelation, so that's by learning things in life or going through things in life or letting life teach you, right? Or by knowledge. Knowledge is the intimacy. So basically, it's either by what I read or what I've been through, right? Or by prophesying or by doctrine. So let's read that again. Now, brethren, if I come unto you speaking with tongues, what shall I profit you? Except I shall speak to you either by revelation or by knowledge or by prophesying or by doctrine, right? So basically, it's like, except I speak to you either by revelation, knowledge, prophesying, or doctrine, what am I coming up to you for? you know? So in order to do these things, I must know how that person's life has been going. I must know how their day has been going, right? I went, like, again, I talked about it on the live before, and I was like, I went through all these things, and I didn't really get the lesson until the end of it. Then I had to work backwards to the beginning, so that way I'm able to know what to rest on for the next day to use. And each day progresses to study sessions like this, right? This is the testimony. It started out with the filter. I was led to change the filters and the AC, clean it out and stuff like that. Um, and I noticed when I turned on the AC, it stuck to the AC like really, really tight. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But just like Benjamin was really tight with Joseph, the properly planted place. Joseph, once he saw him and put eyes on him again, once Benjamin then went back to Kemet, right? He said, "Nah, he's staying with me. He's staying with me," because Benjamin breaks down to the son of the right hand, basically like a child of the way, properly planted breeds warriors. Again, Saul, Paul, Esther, so on and so forth. Like this is what comes from this. This is Benjamin. We're gonna break down what that means, the characters a little bit later, right? Let's see, verse 7, and even things without life. This is my favorite part. Even things without life giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they have a distinction in the sounds. How shall it be known what is piped or harped? Right? Except there be distinctions, except there be separations. A lot of times, again, with the scribes and Pharisees, they didn't go because they said that, hey, you can't be different and know this thing. That's not true. That's not true at all. It's about if you have a relationship with Father. This is what that means. It means that if you have a relationship with the righteous direction, we pronounce things differently altogether. Even if we say the same term, even if I say Yahava or if I say Elohim, somebody with an accent is still going to sound different. So are we technically saying it the exact same? So if we're not saying it the exact same, are we saying the same thing? Yeah. All right. So why can't we take that and spread it across the whole bread? You see, it's like you can't just leave something here because you don't like it there. That's not our job. That's not our work. Our work is to be able to hear things from people. I'm only able to talk to people if I use Jesus or if I use God. That's the only way I'm able to talk to them. If I just say, hey, yeah, and Alachayim and Yahava and Abba, they're not going to know what any of that means. So because I say that, if somebody else says it, then they're going to a bad place. But if I say it, am I going to a bad place? No, because I can do it, because I have to do it. It has to be accepted, right? So malice starts from saying, "Oh, you didn't come over here with everything in the hand that you need before I can even talk to you." That's what it does, right? Job's problem, I think it was Job 6, somewhere around there. Um, he was like, I'm very frustrated because he knew how to separate malice, but he's like, I'm separating all this stuff. I see this, I see the malice in it, but it's still happening. Why am I still in this place? Why am I still here? But he didn't quit. He didn't quit. They left him behind. We all know the story of Job. Everything went down, but what went down was malice. Everybody came to him with malice. Everybody was caught up in the things because think about it. These broken down spirits are moving all this evilness around them because you said, yo, bet you won't fold, right? So all these things going around, all these broken things flying around, and all these people, wives, children, everything like that, they're getting taken over by these evil spirits. They're seeing what's going on, and they're believing what's going on for it to be something that he did wrong. And what you do wrong? What you do wrong? No, you're not able to properly speak in tongue. You're not able to properly see in tongue in order to know what's going on. That was a lesson that was showed there, right? Let's go. Verse 8. For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself to battle? Salah. So if a trumpet gives a distinct sound or a distinct note, for those that know how to play instruments, I don't know how to play a trumpet, but for those that do, if a trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who shall prepare himself for battle? Right? That's not only meaning that could mean a note that's off or a sound to battle. You got to be able to know the difference. You got to be able to know the difference between a ram's horn. You got to know the difference between a trumpet of war, right? You're supposed to know the difference, the distinction. So that way you're able to tell the next person, hey, we're going to war, or hey, somebody just don't know how to play the trumpet, right? Yeah, he gives us different gifts for his purpose. That's right. All different gifts, and all different gifts got to come through many different things in many different ways. I came to this by saying Jesus, God, and all this stuff. I came to this from starting in church. I came to this like from crazy places, right? I'm not going into that, but he gives us lanes to find our purpose and gifts. So how can we look at somebody and just call them malice, right? We were seen and bathed into malice because of Adam not seeing that it's not yet. He was always very antsy. It was always antsy. It was so written to be, but he always wanted more. And he didn't really listen to pace yourself. He didn't really listen to that. He kept going forward and just kept running forward. He kept sprinting forward and he kept hitting that wall. So what does that tell us? Because things happen in the Bible that really happened in order for them to be lessons for us. So we had to see what that meant also as well. But then just side note also as well, just because they happened before, to give us lessons now doesn't mean that we should reject anything that they did, right? A lot of times, I'm just gonna say this and leave it here, just to help people, just to give that little push some more, because I know people that aren't already on it are tired of hearing it. But um, if you're not going to do exactly what the Messiah did, you're not walking in the way. All right. Um, Many times people want to use the Bible, but only certain parts, because the other parts might seem too hard. They might seem vain to them, but nothing is vain, right? There's a lot of things to notice in another person where they're just like, no, I'm not doing it. Just think about why. Ask them, well, why not? Start there. You know what I'm saying? That's to the side. Right? It's law, case study, and constitution for and about the mindset of Yahashua. Exactly, exactly. Because the mindset of Jacob to Israel, he was going through things and realizing things. So this is a culture to get the proper mindset. A lot of times, even that, it throws people off. Like, we're Israel. They're like, oh, because they've had a bad taste in their mouth from somebody else that fell into a broken spirit, which is what they do to throw people off of things, right? But to say you're Israel means that you have a proper mindset now, because you used to be the one that used to just jump ahead of time. Again, usurper, for not a usurper, but one that was always looking ahead of time, but in proper time, and more so with Jacob, right? Versus Adam, but still man, right? We have to see many different sides of man. All these characters we're seeing in the Bible and things like that are personality traits. It's a whole bunch of personality traits and how they're supposed to be divided. That's the law, case study, and constitution. That's what that is. But this also comes with holding holy days. A lot of times people see that as a some let me be careful, like a party practice. You know what I'm saying? But it's something that reminds you, really puts you in a place, really vibes, really puts you in a mindset, really puts you in a tongue to understand stuff and to be able to receive stuff at a certain time. But if you don't do it, you're gonna miss out on a lot. Um, I'm gonna leave that there. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Verse 9. So likewise ye, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to be understood, how shall it be known what is spoken? He just broke down everything what he was trying to say, right? For ye shall speak into the air. You should speak into the air versus the air speaking to you. It's a vice versa process, but you got to be ready for that step. You know, even when I was just talking about the holy days and stuff like that, it's not to say, oh, if you don't do it, you just not going. No, because I ain't got no heaven or hell to put nobody in. But if you want to get closer, then you should do that. If you don't want to get closer, then don't do it. But just know about that story with the talents. Just know about the story with the talents and that this walk is never done. Never done. Because if you're getting tripped up by things like, I will, I will get stricken. My flesh will get struck, but it's not going to. Hmm, it's not going to overcome me. That's my guarantee. It's not going to overcome me. That means defeat me. It's not going to do that, but it is going to affect me. But people get overcome and people do things and lead other people into things because they're not able to give them proper character, to give them proper help for the proper time. Right? So let's go back to verse 9. So likewise ye, except ye utter by the tongue words easy to understand, how shall it be known what is spoken? For ye shall speak into the air. Verse 10. There are, it may be, so many kinds of voices in the world, and none of them without signification or significance. Verse 11. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, Salah. Therefore, if I know not the meaning of the voice, I shall be unto him that speaketh a barbarian, and he that speaketh a barbarian unto me. So if you don't know the language of the Hebrew characters spoken by Abba, Yah, or God, or Lord, or whatever your terminology is, if you don't know that tongue, who is a barbarian to who? Just saying, right? And he that speaketh a barbarian unto me, verse 12. Even so ye, for as much as ye are zealous of spiritual, everybody wants the spiritual many works that come with it, right? Seek that ye may excel to the edifying of the church. That is the way. Verse 12, even so ye, seek for edifying of the church, edifying of the assembly. That includes you as well, right? That includes you as well. Let's keep on going. Let's keep on walking. Still talking about malice. What else I got? Verse 20. Let's go to verse 20. Yeah, so we should keep reading. All right, gotcha. Verse 13. Wherefore, let him that speaketh in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. Right? Wherefore, let him that speaketh in an unknown tongue pray that he may interpret. Yes, that is the word. That is the petition. That is the getting up here and saying it, basically. Verse 14. For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. That's a great example. So if you don't really get deep into it, because don't you think Paul knew about these things, right? Just as example, not to throw nobody, not to do tit for tat, not to beat nobody in the head or make nobody feel low, right? This is just a seed planted because we're talking about Benjamin, we're talking about Joseph. Joseph definitely in history, we could see what he worked with and what he wrote in and who he was and is as a character, right? Um, you can, this is what I was meaning earlier, even with those that are still in church, and nothing against them. Like that's that's a place that's still righteous. You just need more to it. But those that deny, it's that's the part. It's not even being like, oh, these churches are terrible, these churches are wicked, these churches are no good. It's just that we're worried about you. You know, those that are this deep, we're worried about you because we do care. It's like, but why not? You really got to think about simply why not? Do they don't understand, so they didn't seek understanding? So should they be in leadership? Like why not? Why is that left out? Why is English all through there, but that's left out? You know what I mean? That's the thing, right? For if I pray in an unknown tongue, my spirit prays, but my understanding is unfruitful. So you're able to pray, you're able to still get the word. You're still like that's what I'm saying. Like even those that use Jesus and stuff like that, or those that don't, like even if they know Hebrew and still use Jesus, right? I don't I don't get that deep. I don't name bang, right? I don't. But um the understanding is unfruitful. So you're gonna miss some things. Even if you just want to learn Hebrew character and refuse to use it, but still know it, right? For whatever reason. Not my problem, right? That's between you and Abba. But if you don't even the understanding is gonna be lower, right? So if you're not able to even interpret the tongue, if you're not able to see the malice, right? If you're not able to see the righteousness versus the malice, right? the understanding is going to be unfruitful. So even if you go to somebody and try to give, mm, prayers of petition, right? Prayers of petition. So salah on that. A petition is a request to a governing body, right? A governing body can be your previous understanding. It can be a previous way, a previous piece of clothing, right? But a petition is a request to a form of government. So if I petition a request in a tongue, in an unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. That goes vice versa, right? Prayer or petition. That bingo, bingo, bingo. You know, go ahead, dive in on that. But salah on that, salah on that. That goes many different ways. But study malice. Study what is malice. And I meant that. Like, you got to study what is malice in order to know what's not malice. But make sure that your understanding is fruitful. Make sure your understanding is fruitful. Because you can, it could go many different ways. But yeah, we're not meant to go down there today, down that rabbit hole. But verse 15, what is it then? I will pray with the Spirit, and I will pray with the understanding also. I will sing with the Spirit, and I will sing with the understanding also in each language, right? This is able to carry things across the board. This is not just coming across to beat somebody in the head or say, you're wrong, or you're not where you're supposed to be, or you're not. No. This is first more so for those that are deeper in there, but those that have curious minds as well, right? But um is to be able to see where people are at, to be able to approach them in a certain way. Like, I wouldn't approach nobody, honestly, like right here. I wouldn't approach nobody and say, hey, uh I think you should know Hebrew character. And they say, why not? I mean, they say why, and I say, why not? And I leave it there. That's not righteous. That's being petty. That's just being petty. But to be able to break down the wisdom, right, that you see in the scrolls and in the scriptures and the apocrypha and giving it to them, is that not the same thing as them reading it? You know? Again, when I say you got to know the characters, stuff like that, it's not to beat nobody in the head. It's not to say you better, but it's good to. I recommend it, but I can still give you the same information by me knowing the Hebrew characters, right? Malice is division, because how do you speak against division? How do you speak power over division, but yet divide? You know, in the same mindset. So again, verse 14: If I pray in a unknown tongue, my spirit prayeth, but my understanding is unfruitful. That's exactly what that means, right? Let's keep going. Verse 16: Else, when thou shalt bless with the spirit, how shall he that occupieth the room of the unlearned say Amen or Amen, or let it be done in the flesh, at thy giving of thanks, or at thy giving of thanks, right? So thanks is fasting. Thanks is giving thanks is taking time away, fasting, to look at something, take it away, fasting, and zoom in on it, fasting, right? In order to see what's really there. How can they be able to do that? How are they able to see a tongue or speak in a tongue um if you're not making it able to be that way? Right? If you're making that the bottom line, end all be all, isn't necessary, yes, but you can't come in the room kicking down the door like, hey, Hebrew characters first. You know, you got to be able to break it down. You got to, because if not, they ain't gonna bother. They're not gonna bother to listen or look, right? Verse 17: For thou verily givest thanks well, but the other is not edified. I thank my Alachayam, I speak with tongues more than ye all. Why? Yet in the assembly I'd rather speak 5 words in my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue to them. I'd rather speak 5 words in Hebrew and break down them 5 words in Hebrew and get them to understand it, even if they don't want to write it in Hebrew. I'm just glad you have an understanding now. I'm just glad you know that it's Abba, and Abba uses the righteous direction towards the blood, water, and spirit. And it's all moved by the wind, which is Ravak, and also him. You know, that nature is really him. The winds that blow through, the waters that rush, the seeds that's planted, everything is literally him. He's in everybody, even those that don't have an understanding. So you got to see the Yah in them. You got to see the Yahavah in them. So Yavad, the hand of the Father in them, but you also have to see what the righteousness, the righteous direction, Yahavah, right? You got to be able to see what that has done in a person's life. But then you also must see Allah Hayam. You must see what that has put into the blood, water, and spirit, right? You got to be able to see all these things, but to tell them, hey, yeah, Abba uses Yahweh. And even when I started this, like even with the mindset of the garden, many people were like, bro, what are you talking about? You know, okay, I got you. I got to speak like 5 words of that and millions of words of understanding for them, right? And these are still people in our community. And this is still something that I would hear sometimes and still be thrown off like, what are you even saying, brother? Or what are you saying, sister? They're going to do the same thing to me, right? This is what the scribes and Pharisees, again, messed up at. What we see is action. The characters that we use to relate are Hebrew characters. But before that, what was it? Action. Action speaks louder than, right? So we got to remember that. We've got to remember that, right? Um, verse 20. This is the main focal point of where we're even hitting at today. It says, brethren. This means sister and two, right? Be not children in understanding. Howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be men. All right? Means grow up. No. Brethren, be not children in understanding. So do not require the sincere milk, right? For those that already know. Howbeit in malice be ye children. So look at the sincere milk and where it came from in malice, in what they've been put in, right? But in understanding, be men. In understanding, be men, be women. You know, an understanding, be who you're supposed to be. You're not always going to be able to use Hebrew character. But this is the filter, right? How is your filter looking? Are you able to see the difference between malice and not? Even if we want to get off the Hebrew side of it, right? Let's go to the quote unquote civilian side, right? How is your filter looking? Are you able to see the things in nature, and are you able to hear what that is telling you? Are you able to see that everything in life is either a straight line or a curve? Are you able to see that? It's either a curve around to the same point or it's a straight line through. Are you able to see that? Are you able to see how the wind is the bottom line of everything? Are you able to see that the clouds hold the water, which hold the sediments, which hold the land, which we are the earth? Are you able to see that? Yeah? Okay, cool. Those that even are so against the culture, I know you see so much of the bad things, but who do you think did the good things? You know, there's a source. There's always a source. Keep marinating on source and you'll find the answer to anything. That's the other side of it. I ain't had to use a single Hebrew word. You know? So those that are hearing me, I'm not one of them. You get what I'm saying? But I do know Hebrew character. Yeah, I do recommend going into it more in Psalms 119. You know? And even again, those that don't teach it, it's nothing on them. It's just the place in life that they're at right now. That's all. That's all. It's just the place that they're at right now. That's all. But if you sit there and you kick somebody in the face for it, now you got blood on your hands. Because I guarantee they're not gonna try to hear nothing else about it. It's like every time I try to go around and even give them a chance, they're always calling me behind. You know? They're always talking about me like I ain't nothing. You know what I mean? It's if you pray in an unknown tongue, the spirit prayeth, but the understanding is unfruitful. That's a standing point of either side. It goes either way, right? But in malice, be ye children, right? Not only you're not being who you're supposed to be when you're in malice, but in malice also for those that are able to be outside and look in and be able to step in that stream of rushing water and not be taken out. Be a child in that malice state, in their maliceness. Um, come in with sincere milk, come in with peace, and then teach peace, teach sincere milk, right? Um, but just like he was saying, like he could use five. He'd rather use 5 words with his understanding to give a message than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue to them, right? Or in an unknown tongue to me, right? Either way. But there is none like that when you've been on both sides, I guess what I'm trying to say. There is not that if you're able to know the civilian side, quote unquote, and the deeper meaning side, right? At the same time. Um, let's go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 8. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 8. Where is Ephesians? There we go. Philippians, boom. Colossians 3, verse 8. All right. Take me some more water. Colossians chapter 3, verse 8. At the top of my Bible, it says, forbear one another. Forbear for one another. This is carrying the weight, right? But now, it says, Colossians chapter 3, verse 8, it says, but now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. What is that talking about right there? That right there is a dividing point. It's a dividing point. Colossians chapter 3, verse 8, it says, but now ye also put off all. Right? Let's keep going. Put off all these. What is that? Anger, wrath. And then we have malice next, right? This is how it breaks down to me. We have anger, we have wrath, then we have malice. After malice, we have blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth. So by anger and wrath, that creates malice. And the malice work is blasphemy, filthy communication out of the mouth. See there? So that's pretty much self-explanatory. But that means like don't just brush over it either. Say these things, you know? Give examples of these things. I gave an example earlier. Like I could have been angry, but if I got angry, I would have put them in a place so far away they wouldn't see me as what I'm supposed to be or who I'm supposed to be. It would have pushed them off so far away that they wouldn't even give ear to anything because they know already how I feel about culture and how I walk. They see the works of it, honestly. Like sometimes they're just like, how are you just always in the right place at the right time? Me don't know, but I know our Father Abba. I follow him. I just, when I'm led to get up and go, I'm led to get up and go, and I'm able to move around everything, even traffic. Sometimes people get caught up in traffic and they leave way before me, and I'll get there before them. They're like, what route did you take? I always take the scenic route. I always go through the woods and the back roads, you know? Usually that goes around the mountains that's on the roads. But I'm able to tell you exactly what route I took by the time I got there. That's a life lesson that works into real lessons, just for example, right? Um, yeah, we'll go to verse 9. Lie not one to another, seeing that ye have put off the old man with his deeds. You are now the inner man with the reeds. You know, the one that was able to go. That's a bar. That was a little freestyle flow. You're able to go through the sea of reeds, right? On dry land. For those that was the mistranslation of Red Sea and Reed Sea. They went through a sea of reeds, right? Like a pond, you see all them reeds and they're like grouped together and stuff like that. That's what they went through. Walked across on dry land. You can see those reeds are right beside the waters, so you can kind of see the setup of all that. How it was still parted. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, back to this what we're on today. So let's read that again one more time. But now ye also put off all these. So when you that part right there, when you put off all, right? We already know we're talking about malice. So when you put off everything, um, that means you put off everything that can blind you, right? You put off everything that can blind you, everything that can consider that you could consider malice, right? Putting it off means again taking it. I mean, before, if y'all been with us for a while, we talked about every day is moving day, right? So that requires you taking it, putting it into a box, labeling it as such. So what is that? Anger, wrath, right? You put that in the box. That's malice. The threat of that is blasphemy, which is mm, we going there. All right. Blasphemy, which is speaking against the spirit. That's blasphemy. Technically, the scribes and the Pharisees were committing blasphemy. That's all together in a whole lump sum speaking against the spirit. Saying that there's only one way, take this with a grain of salt, one way to it, right? Because we come from many directions to a one point, but there's many ways to one point. You know what I'm saying? This is life. There's many ways to one point. So we can never sit here and belittle or look to nobody at the side, even if we're believers, even if they're evil, even if anything. We can't sit here and look on them bad. All right? We can't look at leadership and look at them bad. You know, we can't look at the average Joe on the street and consider him bad. Like a homeless man. I was talking about that too. He wasn't a homeless man. He just needed less to be in a home. That's the way I see it. But he told me two things people will never find that they keep looking for: love and a way to heaven. Because you got to be love and you got to be the way. Heaven got to be in earth. Like he had a whole scripture. Like when I handed him the money too, like I handed him $5. I went into it on the last live, but I was just led to give him $5, right? But it was like he didn't even look at it. He just took it and put it in his pocket, like, and then gave me the most valuable thing he could have gave me, and that's advice. That's wisdom because of what he's been going through. But if I looked at him and said, "Well, you just didn't do anything right. That's why you're in this position." No, people are meant to be in many positions to get many things to give out wisdom, but do they give out the proper wisdom? That's it, and that's not even throwing a pun or anything like that about Hebrew characters. This is life. Are you able to digest life? Are you able to digest um um I see you, sis. Like that's even to digest the storms that come in. Bro was telling me about before, like right before it rains, the leaves start to droop. You know, preparing for rain to just fall off, just to roll off and hit the ground. It's a lot. Like that's communication. There's electrical forces in the ground when there's a forest fire because fire, electricity, all one, right? So with fire comes electricity, comes pulses in the ground that animals could feel and read. Even if we're in tuning up, you could kind of feel it heating up slightly in the ground to know that okay, it's close. Even in a fire, they taught us to if before you open a door in a fire, if you're in a house, you feel around the door frame to see if it's hot. If it is, don't open it because the oxygen and everything in this empty room is going to let it rush in, right? Things of that nature, right? But lie not one to another. That's saying that it's saying that you don't understand. Like even me in that moment, like I got to be careful even in what I'm saying because it can come off kind of wrong. Like blasphemy, lying is telling someone they don't understand. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They do. They understand from where they're coming from. But to be a bigger person, quote unquote, to be in culture, to dive deeper, right? Not making us better than the next, but to be able to talk to people. We're sent of heavenly things and of heavenly notions, of heavenly knowledge to go to people and speak to them, right? Don't lie to one another. Don't be blasphemous. And it gets tough when you get to these points because oftentimes a lot of people just want to what I've seen, right? I can't say, but what I've seen and what it's been ingested in my heart from what I've seen is that again it's like, hey, we got it, this is right, this is the right way, we got it. Like even me, like I don't I plug and play, right? That's what I say all the time. I plug and play. I take what's going on, just like with the Ravak Hakodash and with Allah Hayam, which would be Holy Spirit or God, And then Lord God would be Yahweh Alakayim, Lord being Yahweh, the righteous direction for the blood, water, and spirit from the righteous direction of the Father. That's Lord God. Together, the righteous direction is coming to the blood, water, and spirit, essentially, right? Holy Spirit being Ravak HaKodesh outside of that, right? You can plug and play the beginning of Genesis by taking what these spirits do with the work of Abba, Abba being source of all, Abba being Father that plants seed, right? Abba being I love from the Father or the source of thinking. It goes into a house or a dwelling place or a person, and that person is going to chew the cud on that, and what comes out of that is their understanding, right? But it could be the righteous one or not, but it's the direction of the Father to lead them into what they need to do, where they need to go, who they need to talk to, who they need to meet. That's what happens, right? But you can plug and play essentially what happened in the beginning just by knowing the works of the Spirit, just remembering that. Oh man, Elijah and the fire coming from the sky, right, to burn and consume a place that was soaking wet, right? Um, the refining fire. He called on who to bring the refining fire? Okay, bet. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna carry it all the way to Genesis or Bar Shayat. I'm gonna drop this here. Boom. Now let me go over here and find out what Holy Spirit does. Right? Pillar of cloud, the wind. All right. Firstborn. Boom. All right. Let me take this over here back to Genesis. Drop this here. Boom. All right. Now I'm gonna look at everything. I'm gonna plug this here. Okay, plug this here, plug this here. Now I'm gonna read it. When you start reading it, you see exactly what happened in the beginning. There were gases, which is enlightenment, if you want to say. No, that's too far. That's too far. This is what I know now. Gases, which is essence that seen but can't be explained, right? A lot of people call that neutrons nowadays, right? Seen but can't be explained, but is there. Some count at zero, but to zero to be zero, it must be counted. So it's not nothing, right? There's no such thing as nothing, right? There's just no strings to some things. That's all. But you can plug and play and see that the gases were there. They were heated up. When you heat up something, you got to throw molecules and all this stuff fast back to back. That's a force of wind. This is Abba using the Holy Spirit. It's heated up, then it's cooled down, right? Wind heats up, microwave. Wind cools down, fan, right? Brings water. Water compact. What makes water come back together again to compact? That's Ravak HaKodesh again, working within herself. Wisdom working in wisdom to bring knowledge and understanding. This brings land. Land comes together so much, it's pressed together, and then it shoots up like a volcano, right? We know these things because it still happens today to make these random islands, right? Difference in masses, difference in groups, difference in lengths, but all I did was what? I took the works of the Spirit and I plugged and played, right? That's it. That's the way. But I can't lie to somebody and say, "Oh, you didn't know the beginning of the world was like this. Oh, you ain't nothing." That's a lie. You know, this scroll is to show that everybody is together because we all in a life lesson. You know, we got to break it down to what it really is. We got to break it down to knowing a tongue and bringing it to life. That's the way. That's essentially what we do here specifically. Other places, yeah, even those that are different levels of understanding, they still take what they've gotten in tongue because they've gotten it in tongue. Now where we could argue about that, but I don't argue. That's one thing too. I don't argue now. Oh, great day. Yeah, I don't argue now because it's no point. What am I arguing about? Because I'm going back and forth with you over a point that you're not getting, and you're coming back and forth with me over a point I'm not getting. We're wasting breath. What did it say? Where's that air? Hold on. Do 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 do. Where is it? Y'all know what I'm talking about, though. I can't find it right now. Because I'm in Colossians. I need to go to 1 Corinthians 14. That might help. All right. Um, yeah. Oh man, I can't find it. What is it then? I pray with spirit. I pray with understanding. Also, sing with spirit. Sing with occupiers. All that. Yeah, vain words are better left uninstead. That's a fact. That's a fact. Um, it's in there somewhere. But yeah, basically speaking into the air, non-existent, null and void, floating away, boom, right? But let's keep on walking. We did First Corinthians 14, honing in on verse 20. Colossians 3:8. All right, let's go to Titus 3:3. All right, Titus 3:3. Now this one, just what they call that? Not precursor. What do you call it? Proclaimer. What is that? That term. Anyway, forewarning. It goes deeper than what I'm going into, right? Disclaimer. That's the word. Disclaimer. It goes deeper. It goes deeper. It goes deeper. It goes deeper. But yet again, this is Paul. Um, where was Paul from? There was a tribe, there was a way, there was a people that he was from, right? So we're still on the same flow, right? Yeah, disclaimer. Thank you. Now, love you, love you, sis. Titus chapter 3, verse 3. uh, let's see. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish. Oh, this is what it's talking about. Yeah, understand it. Right? For we ourselves are also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts. Remember we talked about neurodivergent and neurotypical? The lusting of a thing in neurodivergency will have you held up in a place you're not supposed to be. Let's go back over here to verse 3. And pleasures, living in malice, and envy, hateful, hating one another. So we did this before. We're going to do this again. We're going to plug and play. Verse 3, it says, for we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures. What is that? Living in malice. What is living in malice? Foolishness, disobedience, deceitfulness, serving other gods and pleasures. And what comes from that? Envy, hateful things, hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of Elohim, our Savior, towards man appeared. This is the way. This is sound doctrine, right? This is sound doctrine. Let's do that one more time. Titus chapter 3, verse 3. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving diverse lusts or serving other gods, right? Or slaves to different things. Lust and pleasures, that is what? Living in malice. What is living in malice? Being foolish, disobedient. This is the filter. This is the filter we cut things from. This is Titus chapter 3, verse 3. Let me type it in. 3, verse 3. My tummy talking to me. All right. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, going against the way we're supposed to probably do things, right? Deceived, serving diverse lusts and pleasures. That's living in malice. What comes from being foolish, disobedient, being deceiving, serving other ways or other sources, in pleasures. What does that bring? Envy. That causes division. It brings hatefulness, and it brings hating one another. That is going against the righteous direction of the Father. Hate is a very deep thing, and a thing that people say stop doing, because I mean we always hear you're hating Abba, right? That's what's happening here when you do this. You're hating Abba, but really what it is you're saying you don't like the way that he had them set up to go. And how bold is that for us to say? That sounds like what happened with Moses. He said, I don't like the way these people are acting. I don't like the way you told them to go. Abba said, oh yeah? What happened, Moses? From all this time I kept you in the wilderness, after he off the man, he went into the wilderness for all this time and became king and stuff like that. I believe it's 40 years. But became king of another place, went through a lot of things, met Ruel or Raval, right? All these things, kept going, went back to Kemet, went back to Egypt, led the people out, right? Manna from the sky, seeing the in the wilderness part, but also knowing and forgetting, that's what he forgot, that the manna or the miracle things stop working when you get out the wilderness. As soon as they started working their way out the wilderness and started hitting other things, they saw themselves naked, right? That included Moses. Joshua was looking like, oh, you didn't catch to see that foolishness, disobedience, and deceitfulness came from malice. Because what I see here is envy and hatefulness for one another. All right, so I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go to Joshua and hit Joshua 1:8, because if I keep the book of the law, or keep that law in my mind, or in my soul, or in my heart, I'll be fine. I could lead these people over the Jordan and to the second circumcision, and to be able to put the stones in the water, right? To have the priests step into the waters of the rushing waters and not be overcome by them, but they're parted though, right? Because it's dry land, it's a way for a mindset to be. There's a parting of the waters twice, right? Aleph Ba'it, Ba'it Alav. There's a parting of the waters twice. Salah, right? This is the way. This is life. Sometimes you don't get it the first time. I don't think I got any of this the first time. No, we don't, because I read it once, and then I don't get it. I got to go into it again. This is the way. This is the Aleph Ba'it, Ba'it Alav. This is what happens. This is what it covers, right? Um, let's see. Now let's go to. We're gonna go to the Testament of Benjamin. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to the Testament of Benjamin, and then let me say this out loud. We're going to the Testament of Benjamin, and then I'm gonna hit Gad the seer. We're gonna, yeah, we're gonna go into a deep study of David. Right after this, I'm led to do that. So get y'all David's mindsets in that Davad Dalat, Dalat Vav Dalat. Right, we're gonna go into a deep study of David and the essences and the different breakdowns of David, to Joash and stuff like that. Um, but that's where we're going after this. We're gonna go to Benjamin, then we're gonna go to Gad this year. That's why we're going there. There's a prayer that he says in there, chapter 12, actually, a passionate prayer for the passion things that touch the heart and might throw us off. But this is a great way for him to see. We'll get into that in a second. But we're gonna go to the Testament of Benjamin. We're gonna read that through, and then we're gonna hit Words of God to see it, chapter 12, and we should be done. We should be done. All right. So, as I'm flipping to the Testament of 12 Patriarchs, that's where we're reading from in the Apocrypha. If you have it, I'm flipping to it. I could just go to the table of contents, but no. All right, here's Benjamin. All right, Testament of Benjamin. So again, this the mindset, right? Oh, let's do that. Let's go to let's do that Hebrew character breakdown. We'll do that as we go into it. I'll find a blank piece of paper. All right. So we have the Testament of Benjamin. Hear it as I'm writing it as I'm saying it out. So we have BENJAMIN, right? Testament of Benjamin. We're going to go and do that Hebraically, so we could go deeper into what's going on here to see how they even got these names. So we got Ba'it. We could say Alav, because Alav is in everything. That is Aleph, that is Father, that is Source, that's number one, right? BAN. N being Navan, or the maturity in perfection. So already we have right here the righteous house, or the dwelling place, or the Ba'ite, or the cave. Remember we were talking about we're in a cave process of mind right here, right? We're in our cave season. We're in our bag. We're in the bag of Jacob. That includes the 12 patriarchs. The 12 patriarchs are the mind frames that we need to have, coming from Reuben or Ravban, or the getting caught in the trances of nature, all the way to Benjamin, or Ban Ya Ma'ayin, right? This is where you are in the properly placed position. You are the, as Jacob said, the son of my right hand, right? The hand of work, the hand of word, being a son of that is a follower of it. He was also always very close with Benjamin because they lost their mother, right? They were very close. They were very close. When he saw Benjamin and Kemet, he cried and wept because he hasn't seen his brother in all that time. As soon as they really got comfortable with each other, the brothers, Benjamin wasn't even involved, again, being close to the properly planted place. By the time they even got kind of growing up and together, they threw Joseph in a pit and sent him off and sold him. So this whole time, they haven't been together. They haven't really grown up together. This is why Jacob was even so worried, right? Jacob actually given Benjamin a different name. It was Bioni, or Banai, which is the son of my sorrow, or the child of my sorrow, right? You can also see there the difference between that name and Benjamin. There's a place where you see it either as sorrow, or there's a place you see it as the work of the right hand, right? This both happened before the passing of Rachel, right? Before she took her last breath after giving birth to Benjamin, right? This is where we are. We can see that here. So we have Ban, Yah, or Yavad, right, which is the righteous hand of the Father, right? Um, Ma, or Mom, which is the Hebrew character Mem, which is blood, water, and spirit. When I keep saying that, like Allah Hayam, you can hear that at the end. So from the Father, the righteous direction, there's a work in between, and it ends up in the blood, water, and spirit. Replay this part back if you need it to help you get into character. But Mom or Ma, and then I, which will always, when you see I in a word, it's always an AY or ayan or ayan, right? And then Nun, Navan, which is maturity and perfection, maturity and perfection, or allowing the work of the Holy Spirit to work in you, right? So we have Ban Ya Ma'ain, right? So we have, right, alive, none, right? Ya, Man, Mem, blood, water, spirit, Ayan, in the image or the eye, and then we have none again. So again, Psalms 119, you want to look up the characters by, right, or bait. You want to look up Alav or Aleph, Alef, Ba'ait or Bait, or Ba'ait, Bayt, or Bait. You'll see it in the translation later on in Psalms 119, Beit. You want to look up Nun, Navan, or Nun in Psalms 119. You also want to look up Yavad or Yaud, seen in Psalms 119. Mem, Mom, right? Which is literally that. Because in Mom, the blood, water, and spirit is where the seed is planted into, right? Mom, right? Or Mem, you'll see in Psalms 119. Let's see, we got Ion, which is Ain, I believe. AIN, I believe it is. I can just look real quick. Psalms 119. I'm gonna bring it to the page in a second. I mean, to the screen in a second. Ion. Hey, come on down. Hey, there we go. Yeah, AIN, right? And then we have Navan again. Okay. So right to the left, you have Fight, Love, None, Yavad, Mom, Ayan, Navan. Right? This is Benjamin. And then we have Bioni, which is Ba'anai. We'll go to that in a second. So, boom. All right, Pen, stay right there. I'm going to need you in a second. So, boom. We have Bait, Alav, Navan, Yavad, Mom, Ayan, Navan. That is Benjamin. Oh, Benjamin, right? Which is Ban, Ya, Ma, Ain, right? So, right here we see from right to left, this is what happens when Benjamin was born and spoken into existence, right? So this is what I mean before we even go deeper. This is what I'm talking about when we talk about um, our names have specific meanings to them in our ways and works of life, right? So take your name, look at these characters, find the similarly sounding or the majority of. You're not going to find an O, that's usually an A. A I would be an ion, like I said. An E would be an A for Allah. Um, Everything else generally it's the same. Yeah, you'll find the beginning of that letter in the Psalms 119 because it all came from this, right? And as you see, Psalms 119 is the meditation on the law, is what Psalms 119 is headed in my Bible. It says the meditation on the law. So here, what we're doing, character, is meditation. So that's a great way to say it. Not saying that this is necessary, but if you want to meditate, period, you got to include this process, right? Memorizing it, reading what it is. So like with Ion, or we go to Koph, right? Because that's in Jacob, talking about in Jacob's bag. Then I'll show you Benjamin being in Jacob's bag, which is Psalms 119, verse 145 through 152. So as I'm reading it, for example, then we're going to put this, we're going to plug and play. While I'm reading it, think about Koph or Koph, which is the hands of the Father. So in Yakab, Yavad, Alav, Koph, Alav, Ba'ait, right? Which would be the righteous hand of the Father, um, comes into the play with the work of the hands, right? This would be the naming of the 12 sons of Jacob, right? Before Yaakov became Israel, of course, as well. But we got Koph right there, and then Alav Ba'ait back into the righteous household, right? So in that Koph, so think about Jacob. Think about if Jacob ever went through this, okay? I'm just going to read it straight through. Koph, I cry with my whole heart. Hear me, O Yahweh. Hear me in righteous direction. I will keep thy statutes. I cried unto thee, save me, and I shall keep thy testimonies. I prevented the dawning of the rising, and cried, I hoped in thy word. Mine eyes prevent the night watchers, that I might meditate in thy word. Hear my voice according to thy loving kindness, O Yahweh. Quicken me according to thy judgment. They draw nigh that follow after mischief. They are far from thy law. Thou art near, O Yahweh, and all thy commandments are truth. Concerning thy testimonies, I have known of old that thou hast founded them forever. This is talking about the works of the hand of the Father. We're going to hone in on verse 152. Concerning thy testimonies. The testimonies are the things that we go through. The testimonies are the way of life. Testimonies are the works of the hands. So we can see how that goes with that. But we're going to go back to the olive body for Benjamin. That was just an example. All right. So we have bond. That's the process right here. We go right to left in Hebrew, but it's just for I'm using only 5 words. You know what I'm saying? We can say that now. So we got Ba'ait, Alav, Navan, right? So out of the righteous, to be in the righteous dwelling place, using the vision or the source of the Father for protection or maturity and perfection. This is moved by the hands of Yah, right? By the righteous hand of the Father. To where? In the blood, water, and spirit. This is the baby. To be what? The image, or to look for, or to be close to the perfection, which is Benjamin being close to Yosef, right? This was spoken in the beginning. In the beginning, Jacob knew this. Jacob was very in tune, and these are the characters also in there that you want to look up while I'm talking. Joseph was very close to Benjamin. Benjamin very close to Jacob. Being very close to the properly planted place is what Benjamin was about, is about, will always be about, will always be. He loved being with his brother. He was very tight with his brother. That was his big brother. They with Joseph gone, put this in perspective like this. With Joseph being in Kemet, nobody was really there to really feel what Benjamin was feeling, to really feel what he was going through, because how many were of Leah and how many were of Rachel, right? So being close to the properly planted place is always going to protect you. That's what we see in that character. Before that, it was Bioni, right? You can see it pronounced many different ways, written out many different ways. Yeah, so it would be Benoni. Sorry, it would be Benoni, which would be Ben, just like Benjamin, Oni, which will break down to Bananay, Bon Anai, right? Anai is a version of sight, because we look right there at the end, Anay, from the source of which is the Father, which is Allah, into or towards maturity imperfection comes an image, right? That image could be your version of sight if you look at it for yourself. So Bon, or son of, or yeah. because there's Bon and then there's Bar. You'll see in the Bible Bar Jonah, right? Son of Jonah, right? Um, that's in later there's a between of Aramaic and a mixture of a lot of different um not accents. Yeah, I guess so. Accents, many different accents, right, of the Hebrew characters. So bar, bait, alav, ras, which would be a mindset, head of mindset. But you have none, nirvan, which would be maturity in perfection. Sort of the same thing, right? But one is different than the other, obviously. But this is the close correlation. This happens a lot, which is why you got to deep dive in and study. Be careful about going over certain things. But yeah, we have Bioni, Benoni, going into Bananai, which is the version of sight or sorrow. Um, that was the first name that Jacob gave to Benjamin before he was Benjamin, because he saw that as in his own fleshly eye, right? He saw malice and got overcome by malice. This is the main point. Benjamin was written to be against malice, against selling his brother off into slavery. Even though he was Gucci, he was protected. He was against going against his own brother's request. When he said Benjamin must stay here, it's like something he knew already, right? If you go into the book of Jasher, it tells you, it goes into more detail about that encounter. It talks about Joseph basically spoke of work that they would only know came from them, right? Being a tight knit community, being tight knit, following in the way. What am I talking about, right? Abraham, Abraham, was known for knowing the skies, knowing astrology and things like that. Joseph being a studier of being properly planted, right? Because of memorial archivists, the ones that kept the information over time, over years, from Adam all the way to Moses to Joshua, so on and so forth. Um, Joseph knew how to do that, right? Benjamin knew that only a person of their family could do that. As far as what Benjamin knew, all his family was right there except for one brother. So when he saw Joseph do this and showed him how he could tell him exactly where they were according to astrology in that point. Also something that Abraham left to Kemet or Egypt, which is why you get these eyes of Ra and all that stuff like that, because of the knowledge that was put there, but it was seen in malice. Okay, it was seen and made put towards envy. It got twisted up because of envy, right? But anyway, Joseph was able to show Benjamin. He looked at Benjamin like, "Hey, I got to show you something," basically. And he was like, "Hey, look at all this right here. I can tell you exactly where we are. We are right here." And Benjamin said, "Hold up. You can only know that. See, you can only know that if you're my brother, right?" It just cut back in, so I don't know where it cut out at, but I'm gonna say that again. Basically, Benjamin knew where Joseph was. Benjamin knew where the properly planted place was. He knew that it was his brother because his brother was able to show him exactly where they were according to the nature of things. They could only have learned that specific astrology because astrology that was coming from Abraham. Because remember, things were downloaded into him for his understanding. He went against his father Tarah, with the idols and everything like that. After he smashed that, it said these can't be real. He went to searching. He went to searching for. He looked at the moon. He looked at the sun. He looked at these things and said these cannot be al hayam. These cannot be what brings things into the blood, water, and spirit solely. This is just a part of it. There's got to be something above that, right? So therefore, we could tell that Abraham was about astrology right there. Plug and play, right? Plug and play. We can see that Abraham was about astrology. So when you read in Jasher, that's why it's good to read Jasher, because Jasher goes into more detail. Genesis is just what was taken out of Jasher and called Genesis. Then you got Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua. That's about where it stops with Jasher, right? But anyway, when Benjamin was told to stay there with Joseph, right? Because Joseph got sold into slavery. His brothers went there because there was a famine in the land, right? This is a whole lot of Salah moment. Marinate on this. There's a famine in the land. They went to Kemet. Joseph is the king of Kemet. They didn't know that. Well, Joseph is in a very high place because of being properly planted around Pharaoh. So he's a very high place. Ends up ruling, essentially in the whole scheme of things. Um, his brothers come there. Joseph knows that they're his brothers. His brothers don't know it's him. They haven't seen him in years. Also, at the same time, Benjamin doesn't even barely, hardly know that's him because they haven't had no time together. By the time he was born, it really got to about the teenage years, something like that, maybe barely touching. Boom, Joseph gets sent off to slavery, right? They get there. Joseph said, all y'all can leave and go back, da 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 da, tell him this, but Benjamin got to stay. They said, what? What you mean? But they let him stay, right? Again, they were all misguided without being close to the properly planted place. Without being close to Joseph, they thought that they was gonna get taken out. These are the same brothers that warred wars, you know, crazy work, right? But Joseph says Benjamin to stay there. They get into this room. And Joseph says, no, he pulls him to the side. Yeah, in a room. Joseph shows him exactly where they are according to astrology. Joseph shows them exactly where they are according to the nature of things, is where this gets to. Benjamin says, hold on. Only the properly planted place can look into nature and see things like this and really know exactly how to do this. Joseph was also teaching people there how to do this, right? Again, so allowing that, you can kind of see how culture even got over there, right? Um, he shows him that. He says, hold on, you bro, you my brother. They embraced, they cried, they're back together again because they haven't seen each other. They weren't able to express a lot of things without each other. It's a lot. Without being close to the properly planted place, the son of the right hand couldn't do the proper things. Not couldn't do the proper things. That's bad wording. Um, he wasn't able to see things fully as he could have if the properly planted place was still allowed to be there, if it wasn't messed around by his brothers, right? If it wasn't messed up by his brothers. You get what I'm saying? So that's what happened there. Benjamin being close to the properly planted place. We saw that in character. Now we're going to read the Testament of Benjamin all the way through, straight on through. All right. And then after that, we're going to read Gad the seer and the excerpt from that for a proper prayer. Then we're going to pray out, and then that's it until next week. Most likely, that's what I was showing so far in the work of Yahweh, right? So let's go to the Testament of Benjamin, the 12th son of Jacob and Rachel. All right, it says, the copy of the words of Benjamin, which he commanded his sons to observe after he had lived 125 years. And he kissed them and said, as Isaac was born to Abraham in his old age, so was I also to Jacob. And since my mother Rachel died in giving me birth, I had no milk. Salah. Therefore I was suckled by her handmaid Bilhah. For Rachel remained barren for 12 years after she had borne Joseph. And she prayed to Yahweh with fasting for 12 days. And she conceived and bore me. For my father loved Rachel dearly, and prayed that he might see the 2 sons born from her. Therefore I was called Benjamin, that is, a son of days, right? Try the spirit by the spirit is how you find your mother and brother. Man, yeah, that right there. I could tell you one, that's Ravak HaKodash. The other would be who? You know, oftentimes, even with that, it's okay to say. Many give high reverence, saying that's he calls us friend. A friend sticketh closer than a brother, but it's still a brotherly relationship. That's deductive reasoning. We got to use that. Brother Dorsey, he said that, and I was like, brother, that's the word I've been trying to find, and I didn't even look for it, but thank you because you had it and gave it. Right? Let's keep going. Tada for that, sis. That's Ravak. That's Ravak Alman. Therefore, I was called Benjamin. That is son of days, son of learning process, right? Chapter 2. And when I went into Egypt to Joseph, and my brother recognized me, right? We were just talking about that. He said to me, what did they tell my father when they sold me? And I said to him, they dabbled your coat with blood and sent it, and said, do you know whether this is your son's coat? And Joseph said to me, even so, brother, the Canaanite merchants stole me by force. And it came to pass that as they went on their way, they concealed my garment as though a wild beast had met me and slain me. And so his associates sold me to the Ishmaelites. And they did not lie in saying this, for he wished to conceal the deeds of my brothers from me. And he called his brothers to himself and said, do not tell my father what you have done to me, but tell him as I have told Benjamin. And let the thoughts among you be such, and do not let these things come to the heart of my father. Yeah, he said, who is, come on now. Drops Mike. Chapter 3, therefore, my children, you must also love the Lord God, or the righteous direction into the blood, water, and spirit, which is the heavens and the earth. Heavens toward earth, right? Shamayam at arat. Heavens, Shamayam, and at earth, arat. And keep his holy commandments, following the example of the righteous and holy man, Yasav, which is always planted in the proper place, right? And let your mind be to righteousness, even as you know me. For he that has his mind right sees all things rightly. For the righteous direction and love, fear the righteous direction and love your neighbor. And even though the spirits of Balaam claim you to afflict you with every evil, yet they will not have dominion over you, even as they did not have dominion over my brother Joseph. Salah. How many men wished to slay him, and Alachaim shielded him? For he that fears Alachaim and loves his neighbor cannot be smitten by the spirit of Balaam. So those that fear or respect what the righteous direction hath put into a person and loves his neighbor, even so, cannot be smitten by the spirit of Balaam, which is the spirit of malice, being shielded by the fear or the respect of what was spoken into the blood, water, and spirit, Alachayam, or God, right? Verse 5, nor can he be ruled over by the device of men or beasts, beasts of the field, right? Those are the things that affect the heart, because there's birds of the sky or fowls of the air, beasts of the field, and fish of the sea. The fowls of the air are the thoughts in the mind. The beasts of the field are those things that trample, that affect the heart. You can be startled by a stampede, right? And then the fish of the sea are the works of the waters. We talked about the Ravak HaKodash and how all that broke down. That is the fish of the sea. We can see that now with plug and play, right? So verse 5, nor can he be ruled over by the device of men or beasts. Same thing, because emotions can either rule you or lead you, right? For he is helped by the righteous direction through the love which he has towards his neighbor. For Joseph also implored our father that he would pray for his brothers, that Yahweh would not impute to them as sin, whatever evil they had done to him, or that the righteous direction would not impute to them as sin, whatever evil they had done to him. I'm going to start saying righteous direction and what is spoken into the blood, water, and spirit. When I say righteous direction, I'm talking about Yahweh, or where it says Lord. And when I talk about what is put into the blood, water, and spirit, that's what I'm talking about, Allah Hayam, or as it says here, God, okay? Verse 7, and thus Jacob cried out, my righteous child, which is good. So I'm going to say that now too, so we can see what it really works, plug and play. My righteous child, you have prevailed over the yearnings of your father Jacob. And he embraced him and kissed him for 2 hours, saying, in the prophecy of heaven will be fulfilled. In you, the prophecy of heaven will be fulfilled. That is concerning the Lamb of the righteous direction in the blood, water, and spirit, and Savior of the world. So actually, Abba coming in form of the righteous direction into Yahashua HaMashiach, right? This is the way. And that a blameless one will be delivered up for lawless men, and a sinless one will die for ungodly men. Chapter 4. Therefore, my children, do you see the end of a righteous man? Be followers of his compassion, therefore, with a righteous mind, that you may also wear crowns of impact, of life lessons learned properly in righteousness, right? Verse 2, for the righteous man does not have a dark eye. Remember we talked about that? That's where all this started from. For he shows mercy to all men, even though they are sinners, even though they are in malice. And though they devise with evil intent concerning him, they don't like this, obviously. And by doing righteous, he overcomes evil, being shielded by what was spoken of the righteous direction into the blood, water, and spirit, by doing the right thing. what comes with that. And he loves the righteous as his own soul. If anyone is glorified, he does not envy him. That's a work of malice. If anyone is enriched, he is not jealous. That's a work of malice. If anyone is valiant, he praises him. That is righteous. He praises the virtuous man. Even so, the valiant and the virtuous one. He has mercy on the poor. He has compassion on the weak. He sings praises to what is spoken into existence per person. As for him who has the respect of that, he protects him as with a shield. He helps them that love the same way. He admonishes and turns back him that rejects the Most High, Abba, that rejects the process, right? And he loves him that has the grace or the impact of a righteous spirit as his own soul. He is it. He is love. He is way to higher thinking, right? Chapter 5. Therefore, if you also have a righteous mind, then will both wicked men be at peace with you, and the profligate will revere you and turn to righteousness. That's what I was talking about in my example, talking about how the yard jockey situation, right? So therefore, if you have a righteous mind, then will both wicked men be at peace with you, and the profligate will revere you and turn to righteousness. So they will listen to you and turn to righteousness. And the covetous will not only cease from their inordinate desire, but even give the objects of their covetousness to them that are afflicted. If you do well, even the unclean spirits will flee from you, and the beasts will dread you. For where there is reverence for righteous works and light in the mind or enlightenment, even darkness flees away from him. For if anyone does violence to a holy man, he converts. For the holy man is merciful to the reviler and holds his peace. And if anyone betrays a righteous man, the righteous man prays, though for a little while he is humbled. Yet not long after he appears far more glorious, as with my brother Joseph, as being planted in the proper place. Chapter 6. The inclination of a righteous man is not in the power of the deceit of the spirit of Balaam, or the spirit of malice. For the messenger of peace guides his soul, which is guarded by the properly planted place. Benjamin at Yasav, Yasav at Benjamin, or Yasav at Banyaman Ma'ain, or Banyama'ain at Yasav. And does not gaze passionately on corruptible things. Don't get stuck there. Nor gathers together riches through a desire of pleasure. Self-explanatory. He does not delight in pleasure. He does not satisfy himself with luxuries. He does not err in the uplifting of eyes. The righteous direction is his portion. The righteous inclination does not receive glory nor dishonor from men, and it does not know any guile, or lie, or fighting, or reviling. For the righteous direction dwells in him and lights up his soul, and he always rejoices towards all men. So the inclination of nothing riles him up. Benjamin was the one that brought everything together, right? For the righteous direction dwells in him and lights up his soul, and he always rejoices towards all men. We talked about that too. The righteous mind does not have two tongues. Because we read in 1 Corinthians 14, there is one tongue in a language, right? Does not speak in two tongues. I'm trying to find that place. That's why I said that. There we go. Verse 5, the righteous mind does not have two tongues of blessing, and which is of blessing and of cursing, of insolence and of honor, of sorrow and of joy. That was the two names given to Benjamin, right? Of quietness and of confusion, of hypocrisy and of truth. But it has one disposition, uncorrupt and pure, concerning all men. It has no double sight, nor double hearing, for in everything which he does or speaks or sees, he knows that the righteous direction looks on his soul, and he cleanses his mind, that he may not be condemned by men as well as Alachayim, or the righteous direction intent into the blood, water, and spirit. And in like manner, the works of Balaam are twofold, and there is no singleness in them. So the goal here is to be uncorrupt and pure. Chapter 7. Therefore, wherefore, howbeit, my children, I tell you, flee the malice, right, of Balaam, for he gives a sword to them that obey him, and the sword is the mother of seven evils, or the mother which is also of Bakakodash. That's what I was talking about. There is a work of a righteous direction. There is an equal and opposite reaction to everything that we do. So again, don't get caught up in the bad because he is of the bad and the good. It's just written to be so. He makes sense. There's nothing that doesn't make sense. There's nothing confusing, right? A mother of seven evils. First, the mind. So this is how the seven evils work, where it starts from, right? It starts from the mind, conceives through malice, and first there is bloodshed or a waste of a bloodshed, right? Secondly, ruin. Thirdly, tribulation. Fourthly, exile. Fifthly, scarcity. Sixthly, panic. Seventhly, destruction. Seventh being Zion, or the work. It all works destruction. So let's start that over. It goes from the mind, which is messed up through the conceiving of or the staying in or becoming one with or being taken away by the rushing waters of malice. And that's the bloodshed. Then it ruins. Then it sends you through tribulation. Then it exiles you. Then it makes you scarce. And then it causes you to panic. And that is your destruction. That's anger. Anger is panicking. That's all anger is. Anger is panicking. Salah. Verse 3, therefore Cain was also delivered or to seven vengeances by the righteous direction spoken into the blood, water, and spirit. For this is the way. For in every 100 years the righteous direction brought one plague on him. And when he was 200 years old, he began to suffer. And in the 900th year he was destroyed. For on account of his brother Abel, he was judged with all the evils. But Lamech was 70 times 7. Because the son of Cain. Okay, gotcha. Because those who were like Cain in envy and hatred of brothers will be punished with the same judgment forever. Lamech, not the same Lamech. There's two different ones. There's one on Cain's side and there's one on quote unquote Seth, Abel's side, right? So on that, deep dive on that. There's an equal and or opposite reaction. Chapter 8, it says, and you, my children, must flee evil doing, envy, and hatred of brothers, flee malice, and cleave to righteousness and love, which is uncorrupt and pure. He that has a pure mind in love does not look after a woman with a view to fornication, or look to the ways of water, right? That's not talking about specific, that includes specific, but we're talking about water, still talking about wisdom, still talking about mother, still talking about woman. That is the Holy Spirit, that is wisdom, right? With a view for fornication, for he has no defilement in his heart, because the spirit of the righteous direction spoken into the blood, water, and spirit rests on him. He's in the way. Not in the way, but he's a follower of the way, right? For as the sun, verse 3, for as the sun is not defiled by shining on dung and mire, but rather dries up both and drives away the evil smell, so also the pure mind, though encompassed by the defilements of earth, rather cleanses and is not itself defiled. I didn't even catch that the first time. Let's read that again. For as, this is metaphorical mind, for as the sun is not defiled by shining on dung and mire. So the sun ain't messed up because it shines on poop, but rather dries up both and drives away the evil smell. So also the pure mind. The pure mind does the same work, though encompassed by the defilements of earth, though encompassed by the smells of poop, right? Rather cleanses and is not defiled, right? Still able to do the work. So chapter 9. And I believe that there will also be evildoings among you, according to the words of Enoch, the righteous, that you will commit fornication with the fornication of Sodom, and will perish all except a few, and will renew wanton deeds with women, or different ways of water. In the kingdom of Yahweh, but both, we know this now, we Gucci. And the kingdom of the righteous direction will not be among you, for he will immediately take it away. Kingdom is represented by the character Resh, or the Rosh, R-A-S-H, or in Psalms 119, R-E-S-H. The kingdom is the mindset, so plug and play. And the mindset of the righteous direction will not be among you, for he will immediately take it away. Verse 2, nevertheless, the temple of the righteous direction into the blood, water, and spirit will be in your portion. And the last temple will be more glorious than the first. Alav ba'it, ba'it alav. And the 12 tribes will be gathered together there, the 12 testaments of the 12 patriarchs, and all the nations, the mindsets from those names that we can get from knowing the breakdown of the meditation, until Abba will send forth his salvation, or the salvaging, or the rescuing in the visitation of an only begotten prophet. Got it? Got it? Okay. And he will, verse 3, I'm gonna read these double brackets. Double brackets basically, when you're reading again, means that there was a person that read the original and also added at this part of what they got from it, which is generally correct. Not the exact words, but the general thought or statement. So when you see double brackets in the Apocrypha, that's what it's talking about. But I'm gonna read this one. It says, and he will enter, basically what that means is he will enter into the temple, and the righteous direction will be treated with outrage, and he will be lifted up on a tree, and the veil on the temple will be torn, and the spirit of the righteous direction into the blood, water, and spirit will pass on to the nations, which is the blood, water, and spirit, as fire poured forth, which is the work of who? Alachayim, which is God in translation. Fire poured forth. So again, plug and play in the beginning with Genesis, right? Verse 5, and he will ascend from Hades and will pass from earth into Shamayim, which is a backwards way, right? Shamayim at Arat, then there's Arat at Shamayim. Earth to heavenly mindset is like not having an understanding, like we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, right? And I know how lowly he will be on earth and how glorious in heaven. So that's referring to the last part of that, his salvation and the visitation of only begotten prophet. So we know he knows how to be on sincere milk in the earth, but also heavy impact of heavenly things. So again, in malice be a child, but in understanding be grown, right? Yeah. Verse 10, and when Joseph was in Egypt, or when Yasab was in Kemet, I longed to see his figure and the form of his countenance, and through the prayers of my father Jacob, I saw him while awake in the daytime, even his entire figure exactly as he was. And when he had said these things, he said to them, therefore, my children, know that I am dying. So let's go back before that. What was he saying there? That's a heavy metaphoric salah moment right there. It says, now when Yasab was in Kemet, or when the properly planted place was stuck in captivity, I longed to see his figure in the form of his countenance. I longed to see what he would do and how he would be and who would he become and who would he still be who he was supposed to be. This is the waiting to see that Abba does through the things of life that we go through. And through the prayers of my father Jacob, or through the petitions of the study of Jacob, through the 12 patriarchs, through the 12 things of the mind, to keep towards the mind, to keep in the mind, to control the passions, or to work out the passions of the heart, which is affected through life occurrences, right? I saw him while awake in the daytime. So I saw him as I was going through things in the day so I could rest on them for the next day, because evening to rising was the next day. Evening resting to the next rising, which is the work that we would carry on from the previous day onto the next day, right? If that makes sense. I saw him awake in the daytime. Basically, I saw the lesson I was supposed to get, right? So when the properly planted place was in captivity, I longed to see the reform of it, and I did while going through life. Even his entire figure was exactly as he was, right? So even everything was exactly as it was, as it should be, right? That's what he was saying right there. A little poetry, right? But also literally what happened at the same time. But why did he say that specific thing right here? Because it was meant for a metaphorical message. That's why we go into metaphorical mindsets, because when something is spoken again, it's like, hey, just like you read before what happened in Kemet, he could have said that. But no, he said the specific thing, what I was looking for, what I was waiting for, what I wanted to be beside, because I am the son of the right hand. So therefore, I need to be next to the properly planted place. I need the countenance, right? Let's keep going. Therefore, my children, know that I am dying. Therefore, do truth and righteousness, each one to his neighbor, and judgment to confirmation, same thing, and keep the law of the righteous direction and his commandments. For I leave you these things instead of an inheritance, far more greater. Therefore, you must also give to them give them to your children for an everlasting possession, or be a memorial archivist, right? For so did both Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, for they gave us all these things for an inheritance, saying, keep the commandments of the righteous direction into the blood, water, and spirit, until the righteous direction will reveal his salvation to all nations. And then you will see Enoch, Noah, Shem, and Abraham, and Isaac, and Jacob rising over the right hand in gladness. So you will see the mindset or the concept of Enoch, Noah, Shem, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all together in mixture, rising over the right hand, which is where the word or the working of the word, and be to pass over in gladness or in happiness, obviously doing the right thing. Verse 7, then we will also rise, each one over our tribe, worshiping the King of heaven, or the Malachi at Shamayam, who appeared in the earth in the form of man in humility, and as many as believe on him will rejoice with him on earth. Then all men will also rise, some to glory, some to shame, and the righteous direction will judge Israel, or the mindset, first for their unrighteousness, or they're looking to the wrong way. Verse 9, and then he will judge all the nations. Verse 10, and he will convict Israel through the chosen ones of the nations, even as he reproved Esau through the Midianites, who deceived their brothers. We talked about that. Therefore, becoming children in the portion of them that fear the righteous direction. If you therefore, my children, walk in wholeness or holiness, according to the commandments of the righteous direction, you will again dwell securely with me, and all of the right mindset, Jacob to Israel, will be gathered to the righteous direction. So you're able to work it or work with it after meditation, right? Chapter 11, and I will no longer be called a ravaging wolf on account of your ravages, but a worker of the righteous direction, distributing food to them that work what is righteous. And there will rise up from my seed in the latter times one, beloved of the righteous direction, hearing his voice on earth, hearing tongue, right? And doer of the righteous pleasure of his will, enlightening all the nations with new knowledge, even the light of knowledge, bursting in on Israel for salvation. So that's for everybody, even the inner fam, and tearing away from them like a wolf, and giving to the synagogue of the nations, right? Until the consummation of the age, he will be in the synagogues of the nations, and among their rulers as a strain of music in the mouth of all. And he will be inscribed in the holy scrolls, both his work and his word, and he will be the chosen one of the righteous direction in the blood, water, and spirit forever. And through them he will go to and fro, as my father Jacob, saying, he will fill up that which lacks of your tribe, or lacks of your mindset, or lacks in the specific place that you're in. I know which brother you need to go read about, right? Talking about a ravaging wolf. He also said that was Benjamin, right? That's also a translation, right? Chapter 12, and when he finished his words, he said, I command you, my children, carry up my bones out of Kemet, and bury me at Hebron, near my fathers. So Benjamin died 125 years old at a righteous old age, and they placed him in a coffin. And in the 91st year of the entrance of the sons of Israel into Kemet, they and their brothers secretly brought up the bones of their fathers during the Canaanite war. Go ahead to read that. And buried them in Hebron by the feet of their fathers. And they returned from the land of Canaan, or Canaan, and dwelt in Kemet until the day of their departure from the land of Egypt via Moses, right? Then Joshua, then so on and so forth, right? So I reckon all in all, the thing to stay with is to know, to know and to remember, not sorry, to know and to remember that a righteous man has no dark eye, because malice does not make his eye dark. He instead is able to know how to use that into the way he needs to put it into, right? Essentially. We're going to read a chapter out of the words of the Gad the Seer. Words of the Gad the Seer. Words of Gad the Seer. I'm going to read chapter 12. verses 1 through 20. And this is one of David's prayers. We're going to go into a study of David. This is going to kind of open the door into it. But this is the realization that we've been talking about. The realization of meditation. One sec. Yes. Where the creation processing is dove into, right? This is a door that's nailed to a door. This is where the creation process becomes refined into knowledge and intimacy because it's already dipped into wisdom. It says, David addressed Yahweh and all of Israel shortly before his death. David said, Our blessed Elohim, who is great, the only one, guileless, just, avenger, and benefactor of the miserable, beloved, our Father, Elohim Almighty, Holy One, have mercy on the vine, your righteous inheritance. Answer us this very day as we call on you. My Adon, hear my prayer and supplication, for you hear prayers of all people. Listen and accept the cry of your people, for they are your flock and your inheritance. Send your light and truth to help them. Give them one heart to worship you, one shoulder to serve, as one body, so they will be in your hand. And do not loose any of them, for your name is to be one, and our fathers and mothers are one. For hear, O Israel, the Yahweh is our Elohim. Yahweh is one. Do not turn to the idols, for they are false and will completely pass away. Cling to your Elohim, for only he can be your avenger and fortress. Only he can defeat your spiritual enemies and physical enemies and put them under your feet. Only he can bring you into the new Jerusalem of the future. Salam. Where you will see him face to face and be in the presence of the living Elohim that is seen face to face. And you are one of people. If you grow in belief, you will be filled with gates of intelligence. Blessed is the eye that has seen all these things. But if you grow in unbelief, you will reach gates of impurity. So then, cleanse and purify yourself before Yahweh, your King, and it will be well with you all the days of your life. David be on it. I'm on. So essentially, fam, I'm done. But remember throughout this week to check your filter. Keep your filter in mind. Keep your filter in the way, and keep your filter so you can speak life. Because Benjamin being the son of the right hand, the ravaging wolf that could work alone but still tear away and bring back and put in proper places where it needs to be. Being close to the properly planted place is going to be surrounded by malice. Malice is a work of wisdom. Malice is what helps wisdom be seen, because if it was just one way, it would be way too easy. Malice surrounds, but malice will not overcome you as long as you remember not to have a dark eye. Looking at malice and being overcome by malice will give you a dark eye. It will make you hesitate. It will make you panic, aka angry. It will put you in a whirlwind of rushing waters. And it will leave you sitting upon a mountaintop so high, you don't want to go down. That's not the way, but this is what's seen. Remember tongues of 1 Corinthians 14? Remember the works of malice, the dividing where malice sits at in these verses of Colossians 3:8 and Titus 3:3. all the patriarchs that we went through so far, the 12 patriarchs we've gone through. Go through all that. That's your mindset. That's what conquers, and well, that's what works the heart. Works the heart into demise or into glorious impact. The choice is on us. All right. Salah. Salah, let us pray. Abba, to die for your greatness, to die for your mercy, to die for your impact, and for you leaving a way to see it in all times. Thank you for not having something that you would want to keep from us in whole, but to tell us not yet. However, if we do stumble across it as children that we are, you still have left a way for us to see our way out. You have given us the ways, you just ask for our meditation. You have given us a heart, you just ask us to love. You have given us wisdom, you just ask us to see through it. Because this is the way. This is our petition, this is our prayer for the help to see those things in all situations. For you give us occurrences in order to go on to the next day, never knowing when we will have to use it, never knowing who we may encounter, never knowing who we may touch, never knowing who we may fall on or fall into. Whatever dirt and mire and dung, there's a way to get up out of all of it. There's a way to remove the smell of it. There's a way to look. He just asks us to look. But to also be the ones that have looked and are able to speak life, to plant seed, to keep Benjamin close to Joseph and Joseph close to Benjamin, to not have a dark eye, but to be able to see the other side of things that you know of, that we are now into because of Father Adam, but no faults to him. These are the things that were written to happen. But now we know the proper way. And thank you for your protection in that way, even still, because you didn't have to protect us through it. You didn't have to allow what you meant to be able to step and walk amongst us again here, to know the true way. You didn't have to. And we thank you for that, and we're grateful for that, and we won't take that as little, and we will not belittle it. We will take it and magnify it and give all glory to you as we cross whoever's persons we have to cross after this on this day. To die for your rest, for a place to rest in, for a word to rest in. For your way is great and powerful and mighty and passionate. To die for your righteous works, for speaking into the blood, water, and spirit, and for giving a way to walk through the second Adam. Atsam Yahava, Atsam Ravak, Atsam Yahashua. Aman, Aman, and Aman. Ta-da, fam. That's it. Oh man, that was great. That was great. That was great. Meditate on it, replay it if you like, for however long we went. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I don't pay attention to it, but it's been great. It's been loving. Love on one another. Don't become malice. Because if you have, you ain't done yet. And I'm talking to me too. I'm gonna let this play out, then I'm gonna end the recording. on. Y'all be safe, be loving, fam. Shabbat shalom. Rest in peace. Rest through peace. Rest in his work, which is peace. Aman, and Aman. Till next time, fam. Peace.